Mungkin boleh, kalau ada yang buka mic, mungkin boleh tutup mic. Okay. Boleh nampak ke saya punya slides?
Nampak, Doktor.
Okey. Jadi pada hari ini saya akan berkongsi berkaitan dengan penerbitan jurnal berindeks Corpus WoSERA dalam bidang sains sosial. Jadi selaku managing editor untuk ARI Journals di Accounting Research Institute. Saya tak pasti sama ada hadirin ada dengar bunyi ke?
Saya pun ada bunyi. Saya dengar bunyi tu.
Dengar Saya tak pasti bunyi tu kenapa. Perlu ke saya log out and masuk semula?
Dia tak mengganggu sangat, Doktor.
Tak mengganggu sangat Okey, jadi saya akan berkongsi berdasarkan pengalaman saya menguruskan Scopus Journal di ARI, iaitu Management dan Accounting Review, Management Accounting Review, dan juga selaku saya sebagai in the Science Reviewer dan juga Emerald Peer with Expert. Jadi berdasarkan pengalaman ini saya akan berkongsi berkaitan dengan penerbitan, tata cara penerbitan dan apa yang perlu dilakukan untuk menghasilkan kertas kerja berkualiti. Okay, the Accounting Research Institute, basically we have two journals lah, Management Accounting Review and also Asia Pacific Management Accounting Journal. Kedua-duanya index journal di mana MAR actually index in Scopus, ERA and APMAJ also they index in WOS under Emerging Sources Citation Index and also the ABDC and ERA. Okay. So untuk berkongsi tentang MAR ni, ada yang bertanya sometimes they said cari dekat Simago tak jumpa MAR so betul ke MAR ni Scopus Index? Actually Simago is just a third party punya database. So better kalau nak tengok index kena masuk ke Scopus punya database, can go to this link lah severe.com. So link ni kalau klik dia akan keluar this one. Okey, di sini dapat lihat pada nombor 135 adalah Management and Accounting Review. Okey, dan listing ini akan berubah-ubah lah setiap masa. Scopus akan update normally twice a year. Okey. Untuk website MAR, boleh lihat this link di mar.uitm.edu.my. So di website ini kita sertakan juga auto guidelines, manuscript preparation, tata cara bagaimana untuk submit articles di mana we use actually Scholar One system di UiTM untuk jurnal-jurnal berindeks di Scopus. UiTM menyediakan Scholar One system. Untuk submission Okey, sama juga untuk APMAJ, kita juga menggunakan Scholar One system. Jadi untuk submission saya cadangkan kalau author tak kisah which journal you want to send, what you need to do first is to look at the author's guideline, the manuscript preparation, publication ethics, ni sangat penting, and also the copyright notice. Semua benda ni perlu dibaca dengan teliti. Kenapa perlu dilakukan sebegini? Contohnya di MAR kita terima artikel daripada research university for example, ada few yang kita terima, kita dah prepare untuk publish, suddenly they withdraw the paper sebab dia dah terima, dia dah publish di tempat lain. So meaning that this author sent to many journals at the same time. So this is totally not acceptable because kalau kita baca dalam publication ethics copyright notice memang dah dinyatakan. So kalau buat sebegitu, jurnal berhak untuk blacklisted nama sebenarnya. Jadi before submit, please make sure you fulfill all the requirements. Why? Because once we receive on the admin side, first kita akan tengok whether the articles to fulfill the requirements. Okay, the author guidelines, for example, in terms of the manuscript preparation, kita kata 20 pages, they submitted 50 pages. Of course, we will not process the article and we will unsubmit and return back the article to the author. So if you are not following the author guidelines and manuscript preparation guidelines and so on, it will take time because we will unsubmit your articles and then you need to do amendments and resubmit again. Okay, to speed up, so please make sure you follow all the requirements before you submit. Okay. So when we talk about publications, whether it is MAR, APMAJ or any other Scopus or any other index journals, first, okay, you need to ask, okay, whether you are ready. Okay, are you ready? Okay, of course, okay, yeah. Okay, so if you have the following resources, okay, if you have the following resources, okay, for example, you have research project under your research grant or your master or PhD thesis, of course, for all this, kita ada research proposal, kita ada literature review, okay, all the stages in research tu, up to pilot test and also multi-stages research in progress, until completed research, completed master or PhD thesis. From all these, at each stage, you can publish actually. For example, the first four, research proposal, okay, literature review, okay, you can come up with a concept paper or literature paper. Okay, and once you completed your research, you can come up with a full empirical paper. Okay, so before you come up with the papers, you need to understand when we say index journal, what is index journal? Okay, basically when we say index journal, it is listed in Thomson Reuters. Last time kita panggil ISI. Now kita dalam under MJL Clarivate. You can look at the website under Clarivate. Okay, and then for Scopus, you can look at scopus.com. Okay, ramai yang tengok Simago. Simago is just a third-party database. So to make sure that you are sending to the recent list of Scopus, please refer to Scopus list. Later, I will show how to refer to Scopus list. Why? Because it happened when you refer to Simago, when the data is not updated, okay, you submitted your paper, then you realize when it is already published, you realize that the journal already being delisted, no longer in Scopus. So it is very important for you to check. And then you can also look at ERA, okay, link to look at whether the paper, the journal is listed in ERA. So when we said index journal, it will cover three, okay, the ISI, Scopus, and ERA. Okay, and then sometimes you might came across the term flagship publications. What do we mean by flagship journals? Kita kata flagship journals. So what is it? Is it the index journal? So basically flagship journals ni, of course lah the index journal, but a flagship journal normally dia adalah scholarly journal publishing internationally leading research in specific areas. So normally jurnal-jurnal tersebut adalah jurnal-jurnal top terkemuka di dalam bidang masing-masing. Contohnya kalau bidang management information system, okay, macam dia ada top 10 macam tu. Okay, so jurnal-jurnal terkemuka ialah number one, for example, at that time masa I prepare the slides lah, my S4 Okay, so inilah yang dikatakan flagship publications. So normally it is listed in ISI with impact factor more than 5, okay, for social science. And of course in Scopus, normally it is listed normally under Q1. Okay. Example, if you want to search for a journal in Clarivate Master Journalist, okay, you can see here, you can go to mjl.clarivate.com. Ini yang you kata ISIS, Social Science Citation Index and so on. Okay, you go to mjl.clarivate.com. Okay, you search the master list. You will get this screen and you need to search, okay, the journal, or maybe you want to look at the title word and so on. Okay, so for example, here we have Asia Pacific Management Journal, APMAJ, under ARI. Okay, so it is listed here under emerging sources. Dia tak naik lagi kepada full sebab because of citations lah. Once it the citation, so it will become fully no longer under emerging. Okay. Let's say you want to search under Scopus database, as I mentioned before, to make sure that the list that you have to submit the articles is the latest one. You can go to scopus.com, okay, www.scopus.com. Okay, you can scroll down at bottom too, you can see the content coverage. Okay, so I highlighted in red box just now. Okay, so if you look at this content coverage, okay, you click that, so this will appear lah. Okay, the list of download the source title list, download the book title list, because Scopus also produce book. Okay, and also you can download the discontinued sources from Scopus, meaning that the journal that previously in Scopus but no longer in Scopus. So be very careful with that. Okay, so you can click the download the source title and you will get the listing, okay, on the recent titles that listed in Scopus. Okay, if you go to Simago, okay, this one yang I mentioned just now, the third party punya database, Simago, of course they pull the journal here. You can clearly see here under Simago, the one advantage is that you can easily see the quartile. So when we say Scopus, for example, kita ada Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Of course lah, the lowest is Q4 and the highest is Q1. Okay, so if you look at this page, the green color tu, so for this journal, Industrial Management and Data System, okay, so if you look at category, in 1999, under category Strategy and Management, okay, dia kategori dia Q4. Tapi under kategori Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering, dia Q2. Okay. Tapi when they move to 2003, you can see the Industrial Manufacturing Engineering increased to Q1, and also in the next one, Industrial Relations, okay, also increased to Q1. So, but since 2009, okay, you can see majority of the category tu dah reach the Q1. Okay, so this one you can go to simagojr.com. Okay, and you can search and you will see, okay, the information about the journal. But even if you look at this, you still have to look at the recent Scopus listing to make sure that the journal is currently still listed in Scopus. So this is an example of Scopus Index Journal. Okay, so normally in their website itself, okay, you can see the information. Okay, this one of course dia ada Scopus dan juga ISI, Clarivate Analytics. Okay, and then the strategy to send to which journal. When you look at the journal's website, first look at the issues, number of issues that they produce in a year. Okay, so by looking at this, you can see volume 118, so dia ada dah masa ni issue dia 2018, dia ada issue dah 9 issues. So meaning that this journal most probably they publish monthly. So this is good. Why? Because the chances, okay, if you have a good paper, the chances to be selected to high. Okay, like MAR, we have 3 issues, and per issue we have about 10 papers. And for your information, okay, since we are in Scopus, we receive approximately around 40 papers per month. Okay, so kalau 40 papers for per year, nearly 500 papers. Daripada 500 papers tu, we only publish around 30 to a maximum of 40 per year. We have 3 issues. So that's why sometimes I receive once we rejected paper, ada juga yang tak puas hati, contact WhatsApp, kadang-kadang our staff jugalah yang kenal kita, tanya, oh paper dia ni bagus, kenapa not being accepted and so on. Okay, actually it's quite hard to say yes, paper dia bagus, tapi when we receive the papers, okay, of course lah kita akan pilih yang terbaik. Memang banyak paper yang baik, bagus-bagus, tapi we will choose the best. Because we have only around 30 to 40 issues per year, but we receive around 500 submission per year. Okay, that is why it is very important for you to look at the journal's issues. Okay, if you publish monthly, then would be better, high chances. Okay, now the question is, are you ready? Okay, so of course, if you have all what I mentioned just now, you have research proposal. Even at research proposal or at your PhD proposal, you can already come up with a concept paper. A concept paper is very simple. It is around 5 pages prior to full proposal development actually. So concept paper ni dibuat apa sebenarnya? Discuss about what? Just discuss about issues. Okay, issues and whether that particular research to worth to be research. And if you are applying for research grants, for example, we have all these LRGS, TRGS, from there also we have to come up with concept paper. Okay, so even at your PhD level, for example, proposing a research at postgraduate level, you have a proposal. You can come up with a paper, a concept paper discussing about issues and what next, what you are going to do. Okay, this concept paper also known as Foundation of Research Proposal. Okay, it discusses issues on related topic, identify problem that requires a research to be conducted. Okay, later I will discuss in detail and also with example on this category of paper. Okay? And then we have literature paper, detailed discussion from literature, okay, gaps identification, proposed conceptual or theoretical model, operational definition of variables, and sometimes you can also include your hypotheses. Yeah, okay, that one it falls under literature paper. Okay, and then we also have full articles. That one once you already completed your research, okay, you have the results, the findings. Okay, you can come up with empirical paper where you have data and also analysis. You discuss about the findings. Okay, so basically, if you talk about research, let's say you are conducting a quantitative research, for example, there are 14 steps that you have to go through in conducting the quantitative research. Okay, starting from observation, topic selection, problem definition, research question, research objective, literature review, conceptual or theoretical framework, operational definitions and hypothesis development, research methodology, identify assumption limitation, determine expected outcome practices, data collection, data preparation, data analysis, and interpretation of findings. So these are the 14 stages in conducting quantitative research. From all these 14 stages, actually, you can classify which step is to come up with what paper. For example, if you want to come up with concept paper, okay, you reach step number 3 and 4, is already enough for you to produce a paper. So, kalau PhD students, I ada juga join DSG group, doctoral support group tu. Bila kita discuss about PhD students need to publish papers, semua kutuk lah kenapa buat polisi bodoh lah, kenapa buat polisi menyusahkan pelajar. Nak publish paper bukannya bukan cepat, lambat so nanti pelajar tak boleh grad sebab tak publish paper. So actually the requirement doesn't mention that you have to publish full empirical paper. Okay, what I did to my PhD students, okay, I have already 9 students that already passed their viva, and ada 3 yang dah dapat senat. Okay, and another one going to sit for viva next week. Okay, so based on my experience, okay, supervising them, what I did is that once the student reach, okay, step number 3 and 4, or at least they have prepared their proposal. Of course lah, when you register, you have to submit a proposal, right? Okay, I will guide them on how to prepare the concept paper. Okay, so at the early stage of your study, at month maybe 1 to 3, month 1 to 3, first, second, third month, you can already submit to prepare a concept paper and submit to journal. Okay, concept paper, you cannot like aim a concept paper you want to publish in Scopus Q1 unless it is really impactful concept paper. Okay, what you can do is that you can try sending concept paper to Scopus Q4 or at least send it to ERA Index Journal. Okay, and then once you reach step number 5, literature review, you can come up with a literature review paper. If you have a good literature review paper, you can even reach Q1 or Q2 actually. Okay, my student did that. Okay, publish in Q2 journal. Okay, at only a concept paper and also literature review paper, but it is very thorough punya paper. Okay, and then if you completed up to number 12, so you have done, okay, you dah ada at least full empirical paper, data preparation, data analysis lah actually up to maybe kat sini dia ada banyak stages lah. Some of you might prepare a paper from the pilot test. So some of you maybe you already reached the findings level. You come up with a full empirical paper out of your research. Okay. So example here. Let us look at preparation of concept paper. Okay. Let's say you have a proposal. Okay, of course, your proposal in chapter 1, you have 3 chapters, introduction, literature review, and methodology. From your chapter 1, you look at the background of studies, okay, and also issues and problem statement. You can come out from these 2 items, okay, you can come up with a conceptual paper. So how to prepare conceptual paper? Basically, you need to understand what is conceptual paper. The conceptual paper, we have 3 types. Discursive in nature, okay, where that paper is a controversial topic. So meaning that you cari topik-topik yang kontroversi. Okay, and then the paper provoke readers' thought and encourage them to consider their own viewpoint based on the information you provide. Okay, so based on the topic that is controversial, you try to provoke the readers. So that is how you need to write it. Okay, another one is a philosophical discussion. So sometimes you discuss about a philosophy on certain area. That also can be considered. For example, discussing about fintech. You can consider it as a philosophical discussions. On how to write these philosophical discussions, I have included the link here to discuss. Link ni memang panjang lah kalau tengok. So you can go to this link. This is a philosophical discussion concept paper discussed by Harvard University. Okay, and then also you can do comparative studies of others' work and thinking, meaning that you read the literature, look at the issues, look at the argument. Okay, so you can compare. You can compare, for example, between advanced countries and developing countries. You compare between developing countries and third world countries. Okay, you compare between Islamic approach and non-Islamic approach, for example. Okay, so this is also an example of a conceptual paper that I published. Okay, so I highlighted in the box. You can see here. This is a paper that related to fintech. So you can see here comprehensive conceptualization manifestation. Okay, now the governing issues of fintech are also still worth further investigation. So based on the fintech literature review, this paper explores the fintech conceptualization and its governing issues. So meaning that it focuses, this concept paper focus on 2, the concepts and governing. Okay, and it contribute in understanding how fintech evolve. So this is a good example of concept paper if you want to look at it. Okay, so I also included here the link to download the paper. So maybe after this, you can download, read, and try to come out with your own concept paper. So if you look at the title also, a flourishing fintech ecosystem, conceptualization and governing issues. So of course, concept paper, the title will always talking about issues, yeah, governing issues or anything, any issues, any concept. Yeah? Okay, so this is another conceptual paper that I published in a proceeding. Okay, if you look here, look at the title. Okay, concept paper is either you publish in proceedings or you publish in journal. It's up to you. Okay, this one is most fund management issues on accountability and internal control. So you can see here, okay, I stress on the issues. Issues on what? Accountability and internal control. Okay, so this one also I included the link for the full paper. Okay, the next one, literature paper. So we go another stage further. Okay, literature paper. So let's say you have completed your literature review. You can come up with a good literature paper. So this is an example of a literature paper published by my student, my PhD student, No Farizan. So she published this in a Journal of Financial Crime. It's a Scopus Q2. Okay, so if you look at this journal, it is under Emerald, and of course, Emerald it use they use a structured abstract. So of course, the format of the abstract and the paper you have to follow the requirement of the journal. Okay, so if we look here, the structured abstract normally they already have segments. Emerald memang guna structured abstract. Okay, for example, the purpose, design, methodology, approach, findings, originality. So you can see here. So normally the Q, you want to reach Q2, okay, for just a literature paper, you need to highlight the originality and the value of your paper. Okay. So basically for literature paper, the main purpose is to annotate or to add explanation or opinion or critique the literature in a particular subject area. So it could also propose hypotheses and framework development. So for this paper, if you want to refer, you can just click the link that I already included. Okay, so this one is another example of literature paper also published by my master student. My master student, master by research. Okay, so this student published in Scopus Q4. Okay, so at this stage, this literature paper, you can see the one that I highlighted in the box. This student proposed the framework. Okay, the development of charity level of internal control implementation model. Okay, they name it as CLLC model. Okay, so this is the stage where it provides up to not only the discussions but also the framework development. Okay, so talking about literature paper, sometimes you submitted your literature paper and then you keep receiving rejection. Why? What are the underlying causes of rejection for literature paper? Okay, so what we are looking for when we say a literature paper, okay, what we are looking for is actually we want to look at whether the paper is a real literature paper or only a literature survey. Okay, so what the difference between literature survey and literature review? Okay, so sometimes when you prepare your paper, you just cut paste. You prepare your thesis also on the literature part. You just cut paste the prior studies. You just like, according to A, blah, 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 blah. According to B, blah, blah, blah. So what? Okay, so where is your argument? So where is your, critics, your disagreement with the findings in the literature? Okay, so the difference here, if you just cut paste, and then just rearrange, okay, according to sequence or whatever, okay, that is just a compilation of arguments from previous literature. Okay, maybe you just cut paste the word, rearrange based on chronological orders, or you arrange it according to themes. So that one is not considered as literature review. It is just a literature survey. Okay, so here, if you look at literature review, There will be more discussions, elaborations, critical evaluations by the researcher, by yourself lah, at the end of each sections and subsections. Researcher will then conclude and propose what next. So meaning that you argue, you critique, okay, on which part you agree, on which part you disagree. Okay, you need to discuss that. And then at the end, you have to conclude and you propose what next to overcome, okay, the gaps that you found in the literature. Of course, under literature review, you are able to identify the research gaps. Yeah? Okay, so when you have all this, then it can be something that you can propose to be covered in your study. So if you look at the quotation by Cambridge University Library, a literature search is the act of searching databases and the internet effectively to find key literature on your research topic. A literature review is the reading and reviewing of a subject in the form of a written piece of work. Okay. Okay, now let us look at some example. Okay. Why is it important? This is actually one example that I want to share from my experience reviewing a Scopus Q2 journal. Okay, so there are 3 reviewers here. Okay, you can see here comments. So the one that highlighted there, okay, relationship to the literature. So meaning that the journal wants the reviewer, okay, to discuss about the paper in terms of the relationship to the literature. So they want to know, does the paper demonstrate an adequate understanding of the relevant literature in the field and cite an appropriate range of literature sources? Is any significant work ignored? Okay, so if you compare the review, so here the reviewer one, okay, dia kata authors provide very basic definitions and so on. Look at the bold one. The other main issue with the literature review section is that it does not actually provide one. Okay, meaning that the literature review is not a literature review. At best, the authors provide a literature report, or another name, it is a literature survey. Okay. So the author provide a literature report on what previous studies have been published on student perception of ethics in business. Okay, so you can see here, meaning that not thoroughly, the issues not thoroughly discussed, argued, okay, concluded, okay, and nothing, no identification of gaps and what proposed innovation to overcome or to close the gaps. Okay, if you look at reviewer 2, okay, comments by reviewer 2, the write-up of the literature was more on the format of literature survey instead of a literature review. So issues were not critically discussed, argued, and concluded to propose new insights on what to be done. And even if you look here, most of the literature or references were outdated 10 to 20 years back. You want to prepare a literature review paper, but look at your references. So common mistakes done by authors normally, maybe you extracted the paper from the thesis. You completed your PhD about 6-7 years ago, 10 years back, but then only now you want to publish. Okay, you just extracted whatever you have in the literature from your thesis. You cut, paste, you rearrange, and then you submit it as a paper. Okay, you forgot about the outdated issues, the outdated literature. So, of course, first we will do the screening. When we receive a paper, we will do the screening in terms of the references, whether it covers at least 5 papers, 5 papers in index journal, okay, meaning that the paper published in either ISI, Scopus or ERA, okay, in the recent 3 years. Okay, so normally that would be how I screen when I receive paper. We want to see a paper that is relevant because we are publishing it now in the current year. Okay, so of course we want to provide something that is recent enough for our readers to refer to. So if you submit a paper with 10 to 20 years back literature, of course, okay, we will immediately reject your paper. Okay, so one tips here is that make sure if you want to submit to index journal, make sure the literature review you need to update if you extract it from your thesis or your old research report. Okay, so try to make sure you have at least 5 the recent 3 years. So for example, now 2022, 21, 2020. Okay, so if you have this at least 5 from these recent 3 years, then it is good now. And then if you look at reviewer 3 also, okay, author appears to put the cart before the horse. Literature review is limited as the author failed to evaluate all ethical philosophies. So you can see here, all 3 reviewers, okay, for this Scopus Q2 journals give the same ideas on how they review the literature. Okay, and then when we talk about literature survey versus literature review, these are some example of literature survey. So when you write a literature and you just do like this, business performance measurement help business to set business objective and so on. Performance monitoring system were used in many activities, okay, and so on. Until Azu 2004, have measure firm performance by looking at 4 dimensions. It is just a reporting. You report, you report what you found in the literature. Okay, so this is not literature review. This is literature survey. Okay, when we say literature review, okay, so this is an example of literature review related to the measurement of business performance. Okay, so I did a research on e-commerce and business performance. So in measuring the business performance itself, I want to look from both technological and business perspective. Okay, so I look at the literature, okay, past research done. I analyze, argue, critics. You can see here. What was missing in the literature from the accounting perspective was the focus on financial impact, especially regarding return on investment. Other aspects that related to accounting matters, okay, for example, e-business issues reported in internal and external audit report were not included when measuring e-business performance. Okay, so you can see here there are discussions, meaning that you yourself give your own argument, okay, your own disagreement or your own conclusion. Okay, and then also you will identify from the analysis, okay, you argue, you critique, that is where, okay, you will identify the gaps. Okay, literature review showed that in measuring e-business performance, okay, such as online reservation and so on, so normally the technological issues are not really considered in social science papers, for example. Okay, and then also when you do a literature review, you need to conclude and propose to close the research gaps. For example, here, okay, therefore, the use of e-business scorecard, a modification of balance scorecard. So meaning that now you look at the literature, you found the traditional way of measuring performance, and you also look at the technology people prepare the paper, measuring performance from technological perspective. You merge it together, you come out with e-business scorecard. Okay, so that one is where you conclude and propose to close the research gaps. Okay, so when we said literature review, you want to prepare a paper, whether it is a literature paper or it is a full empirical paper, literature review is very important. Okay, so in order to come up with an effective literature review, okay, there are 6 stages that you have to go through. Of course, first you search for relevant literature. Okay, you narrow down your topic, what area you want to do. You narrow down, you got the area of interest, and then you search for the relevant literature. And when you search, of course, let's say you Google, okay, you will get lots of articles in Google, or maybe you can go to the Scopus database, for example. Okay, now it's time for you to evaluate the sources. Okay, you need to evaluate the sources, where it come from, okay, whether it is relevant or not, and then manage how to manage the sources, identify the themes, debates, and gaps, outline the structure and table of contents, and finally you write your literature review. Okay, the next one, the next example is a full empirical paper. So this is an example of full empirical paper in Scopus Q2 journal I published during my PhD study. Okay, this paper published in Information Management and Computer Security, published by Emerald. Okay, in full empirical paper, you will report on any type of research undertaken that involve the construction, testing a model or framework, empirically tested. Test the data, you have the data, you tested the data, and you already do the analysis and draw conclusion, up to the conclusion, and sometimes to the recommendation actually. Okay, so this is an example of a full empirical paper. Okay, you need the data. So this, if you are submitting to MAR, for example, we are not accepting a concept paper and a literature paper. We only accept full empirical paper. We want data, okay, we want a full paper with data analysis and so on. Okay, you can download the paper here for you to refer to. So this is also another full empirical paper. So just now, the one that I published in Q2 related to my study, my PhD, that one is quantitative study. This one is an example of full empirical paper in Scopus Q1 paper, Journal Research in International Business and Finance. So this one published by my PhD students, my first PhD student. So this student published 12 papers for her PhD. And this student very young, she graduated at the age of 26, completed the Viva at the age of 26. Okay, she was doing on qualitative on risk management process and also Islamic microfinance. Okay, so you can download the example here. Okay, now at least at this stage, okay, you already know what is index journal. Okay, we have 3 categories here, ISI, Scopus, and ERA. Okay, what is flagship journals here? Okay, and also the type of articles that you can publish. Okay, the concept paper, the literature paper, and the full empirical paper. Okay, the next stage is where we are discussing about preparing articles for publication in index journal. So how to prepare articles, how to prepare quality articles that will increase the chances to get published. Okay, of course, first, okay, you come out with the paper. Okay, before submission, you have to identify which journal that you have an interest to publish. Of course, it must be something that is similar to the area of your study. Or if not, when you submitted, okay, they will reject because cannot fulfill the requirement in terms of their area of interest. Okay, when you go to the journal website, of course, as I mentioned just now, the most important part is author guidelines. Okay, you need to look at the author guidelines, how to submit to the journal, clearly explain there. How to log in to manuscriptcentral.com, click on create account, follow on the screen instruction. Okay, so you have to read the author guidelines. Okay, and then look at the manuscript requirements. Okay, you cannot just simply prepare paper based on your own style and then you just submit it to the journal. No, of course, they will reject your article. Okay, you need to look at the manuscript requirements. Okay, normally journal will clearly explain the format, the article length. For example, stated not exceeded 8,000 words, you submitted 15,000 words. Of course, immediate rejection. And also the article title, okay, not more than 16 words. So this one is a guidelines. guidelines to publish in high impact journal, especially Q1, Q2, okay, you need to have the maximum of 16 words only on your title. I recently received a review, a paper, looking at the title tu siap ada full stop, the title tu ada dua apa orang kata dua ayat, so try to make it in one simple sentence, not exceeded 16 words. Okay, you can put lah like macam sometimes colon, you put a colon because you want to put like a study in Malaysia, for example. That one is can lah, but try to limit it to 16 words. Okay, author's detail. Okay, so this one also very important, because why? Once you created, you make sure you included all the authors, especially if you are a lecturer. Okay, you are using your maybe like your students already graduated, okay, maybe master students or PhD students already graduated and they are not academicians. Okay, they don't have interest in preparing the paper. Okay, so make sure, because it comes from their paper, their thesis, you have to include their name. Okay, so that is ethics, ethics in publishing. Okay, you have to include their name. Okay, so which one you want to include their name as main author, corresponding author, second author? Okay, it depends. It depends. For example, maybe like myself. Okay. Yeah. Any question? Tak ada. Okay. So my practice is normally like this. If the student, okay, sometimes like myself, I have many research grants. So if the students, maybe your RA, for example, and then to be an RA, they have to further studies. Okay, they have to do research. Okay, like my students last time, they just RA biasa saja, tak buat research, tapi dia tolong saya buat research lah. And then I suggested to her, I kata, why not? You buat juga, you further study, you buat master. Okay, you buat aja my research ni, tapi I bagi another macam my research, tapi tambah variables ke, I punya variable different sikit, dia punya ada different sikit. Okay, so you give them the proposal, for example, so they just add something, at the maybe just add few more literature, but the proposal actually originated from you. Okay, and then even the student jadi GRA, they use our research grants. Okay, they collect data pun. Any question? Okay, so the student, the student also collect the data together with my research. Okay, and of course lah, part of the research too comes from me. So normally, I will kalau around 70% too comes from me, so I will be the main and corresponding author lah. Okay, so the student will be the second author. But if the paper, the student is doing research, totally maybe your contribution is just like 30%, okay, tak banyak pun contribution you. Okay, you just guide dia. Okay, that one, of course lah, you can be the corresponding, but the student should be the main author. Okay, so here when publishing, so ethics kena jagalah, because kita tak nak ada issue like when the student already, you already publish, tiba-tiba student tu viral kat Facebook, kata tengok lecturer dia ambil paper letak as main, nama pun tak ada, so be very careful with this. Okay, and then why is it important to make sure that the author details to completed, a correct one? For example, email address. Email address, if you wrongly key in the email address, later you're going to have problems when the paper already being accepted. You want to fill in the copyright agreement and so on. The copyright agreement okay, they will send to your email. Okay, so they will use your email to log in. So if your email, you wrongly enter your email address, so of course you're going to face a big problem. So be very careful with this at the early stage, during the submission stage. Okay, some journal might ask you to include biographies and acknowledgement. Tak perlulah panjang berjela, but just highlight something important. For example, your age index, your area of interest to show that you are a key player, for example, in that area of research. Research funding, okay, this is a must. If you have research funding, please include that because like journals, they are looking. That is one of the criteria of evaluation by Scopus. Sebab Scopus ni pun once kita dapat index in Scopus, nak dapat index tu satu hal lah. But to maintain the indexing is the most challenging part. Okay, bila kita dapat Scopus, ramai yang contact, nak publish papers and so on. But here, okay, you have to make sure that the paper submitted to is a good quality, and of course, research funding is very important because that is part of the evaluation criteria. Because Scopus pun dia every year dia akan reassess. Katakanlah dia bagi Scopus and then dia tengok after 1 year dia buat assessment. Nampak macam tak okay daripada 10 paper tiba-tiba jadi 100 paper per issue or 50 papers, immediate increase in number of papers, and then also the quality of the papers. Okay, the quality of the papers is the most important part. Okay, so if the quality is not there but published in Scopus, then it's going to be a big issue, okay, and the risk of delisted. Okay, there was a case here, one of journals, Scopus Index, dia accidentally terpublish, for example, journal to maybe bidang electrical engineering. Okay, suddenly tiba-tiba in one issue ada paper mechanical engineering that is not totally under the coverage of the journal, but it is published in the journal. So Scopus will send showcase macam you kena tunjuk sebab you have to justify why. Okay, kenapa suddenly, in what ways this paper related to your journal. That's why like macam macam sometimes I dapat jugalah paper that talking about tourism papers, for example, tapi tak related to management. Normally when I receive papers, I will do the screening, okay, because the focus is management and accounting review. Okay, it must be related to management or accounting. Anything that related to accounting or management, mesti ada elemen management. Okay, let's say I receive about a paper from a faculty hotel, pasal tourism, tapi tak ada related to management, tak ada related to accounting. So I have to reject that because it is out of scope. Okay, that is also very important because later Scopus will evaluate our journal every year, look at whether we are publishing according to what we have included in our website, the scope, for example. Okay, so if our scope is management and accounting, and then suddenly we publish something else, tiba-tiba ada paper physics ke chemistry ke, so that is totally wrong lah, tak boleh lah. So there is a risk of being delisted. Okay, and then another issues like macam about the quality of articles ni. For example, if you want to submit to MAR, because this is a Scopus journal, kita faham sometimes you have submitted to Q1, Q2, lepas tu dekat yang macam jurnal-jurnal yang Q3, Q4 ni you submit yang very simple, and then for example we did receive like a quantitative paper with only one hypothesis. Okay, so even one hypothesis tu tak worth lah untuk Scopus indexing. So bila kita reject, dia marah pula. Dia kata kenapa reject paper dia bagus tu, tapi sebenarnya dia dah split the paper. So dekat MAR dia hantar one hypothesis, dekat another paper maybe Q3 dia hantar 2 hypothesis, Q2, Q1 maybe dia hantar full empirical model. Okay, so please don't do that. Okay, so actually as long as it is Scopus, try to at least provide at least five hypotheses, at least four or five at least. Okay, and then also the abstract, preparing the abstract. So actually this is the heart of the paper actually. Okay, because when we first receive the paper, we will look at the abstract. Okay, from the abstract, we can get the idea of the whole paper. Okay, janganlah buat abstract yang just a very brief abstract. So if you look at structured abstract by Emerald, purpose, design, methodology, approach, ni semua mandatory. Findings mandatory. Research limitations, this one boleh masuk, tak boleh masuk pun okay. Okay, practical implication if applicable. But originality, value is a mandatory. So because why? Because this is a this is Q1 or Q2 journal. Okay, so normally Q1 or Q2 journal, originality and value, novelty must be there. Okay, so it stated here maximum of 250 words in total. So make sure the structure abstract also 250 words. Ada juga I receive papers without abstract. Okay, that one from India. Okay, ada papers yang abstract sampai dekat 400-500 words. So that is of course lah, they are not looking at the author's guideline and manuscript preparation guidelines. Okay, normally when we receive that type of paper, we will unsubmit lah. Okay, if the paper is good, okay, I can see if the paper is good, just that the abstract, the preparation of abstract to very simple, then I will unsubmit and ask them to amend. But if the paper is not good, we will immediately do dash rejection. Maksudnya kita terus reject. Okay, and of course keywords. Keywords, common mistakes done when authors send articles. Keywords, dalam keyword, please do not include acronym. For example, okay, you include SME. So what is SME? Okay, so please do not include acronym in keywords. Article classification, you want to submit, okay, to that journal, you need to look at the classification of articles that the journal accept. Research paper, okay, so of course they accept research paper, whether you have the involved the construction, testing, model, framework, and so on. Empirical research, okay, scientific, clinical research. Viewpoint, okay, so this journal also receive viewpoints. Any paper where content is dependent on the author's opinion and interpretation should be included in this category. Or technical paper, describe and evaluate technical products. Okay, conceptual paper, okay, concept papers. Case study, literature review, general review. So if we look at this journal, so this is Q1 or Q2, but this journal accept conceptual paper. But okay, dia nak, even dia kata conceptual, tapi dia dah bagi requirements. Requires here will not be based on research, but will develop hypothesis. Okay, so that is why we cannot say journal A, journal B, journal C is the same. No. Okay, you have to look at the journal's website. Okay, look at the requirements, because each journal, they have their own requirements. Okay, and even the headings must be concise, clear. Okay, hierarchy of headings, the subheadings. Okay, notes and notes, figures. If you have figures, if you have tables, how to prepare that? Jangan main ambil cut paste from the thesis. You have to follow. Okay, what type of fonts and so on. Okay, the format. Okay, tables should be typed, included in separate file. For example, not in the articles, okay, but in a separate file. Okay, and then you also have to look at the references. Normally the journal will provide, okay, what type of references. This one must be in Harvard style. So for books, how the format, for book chapters, for journals, for published conference proceeding. So the journal already provided, okay, the format that they want. So you have to follow all this. Okay, now when we say publishing in high impact publications, for example, Q1, Q2 is considered high impact. Kalau flagship tadi, flagship tu memang dia top rank, dan normally is Q1 lah. Okay, high impact publications, Q1, Q2, for example, there must be novelty. So when we say novelty in quantitative research, for example, what do we mean by novelty of research? Okay, basically it is a significant contribution to new knowledge. So when we do a research, the output of your research, of course, at the lowest level, you can provide an interactive model. So what is interactive model? Interactive model is that you look at the literature A, literature B, literature C. You think that literature A discussing about this model, literature B this model, but you think that you can match, you can merge from literature A and literature B, for which it will provide a multi-dimensional theoretical perspective, for example, okay, or a multi-dimensional model, okay. So that is the lowest level. We call it as interactive model. Why is it interactive model? Today you publish, okay, your article appeared, maybe next week, next 2 weeks, next month, dah ada orang argue about your model. Orang dah kritik in their literature, they critic about your model and they will propose their own version. So that is interactive. It is a keep changing. Yeah. Okay, the second level of contribution is the theory. Okay, you are good enough. Okay, you can, you can propose a theory, for example, from fraud triangle theory, fraud diamond theory. Suddenly you want to they have a fraud hexagon theory, and you want to propose a new one. Okay, you found new dimensions, for example, you propose a fraud heptagon theory, for example. Okay, the evolution of the theory itself. Okay, what the difference between theory and model? Okay, model, many people will argue, but theory, the argument is at very minimal level. Okay, but another one is law, the highest level. Okay, when your contribution reach law level, okay, you produce law, for example, law of gravity. Nobody will argue. It is acceptable, okay, throughout the universe, law of gravity. Okay, so these are the things that we are looking at when we say a high impact publications Q1, Q2. Okay, later I will show you some example of review for high impact publications. Okay, what expected for high impact publication? Suitability of research article with the theme of the journal. This is the most important thing. Okay, when we say journal of corporate governance, so of course the paper must be related to corporate governance. Okay, or else you submitted, they will reject your paper at desk rejection level. And then you are discussing about current issues, especially articles related to technology. Now we already have industrial revolution, okay, 4, 5 already, but you keep talking about old technology. Your paper still related to old technology, EDI. Okay, so of course it is very hard to be accepted. Okay, those doing research about technology, you have to be very careful. Once you completed your research, you have to publish immediately, because if you wait, okay, for 3-4 years, okay, it's quite difficult to get published in index journal because the technology is already outdated. Okay. Latest citations, literature review, as I mentioned just now. Okay, when you prepare a paper, you need to have at least 3 years back from a reputable journals. You want to publish in Q1, you want to publish in Q2, but look at your references. Majority of your references, okay, comes from ERA index, non-index. Only few related to Q1, maybe only a few related to Q3 or Q4. Not even a paper related to Q1 and Q2. So you want to publish in Q1 and Q2, make sure the references that you have also comes from high impact publications. Okay. So this is very important. Okay. The reason why sometimes you just submitted, okay, you submitted at night, 3 a.m. You wake up in the morning, at 7 a.m. you already received the rejection. Okay. So be very careful, because the screening, normally when we receive papers, what I did normally, first I look at the title, whether it is suitable, match with our team, original team, and then we look at the abstract. So from the abstract we can get an overall picture about the paper, and of course I look at the references to identify, okay, whether you have recent references, and also I want to make sure that at least majority of references comes from index journal, okay, because MAR is Scopus, so we want the author to also cite papers from index journal, at least Scopus or ISI. Okay. What expected for high impact publication? As I mentioned just now, more on the novelty, right? So to get that novelty, of course, you need to, your literature review should be a thorough literature review where you discuss, you critiques, you argues, and you find the gaps and you propose. So for example, here, okay, I listed here gaps existed in Zoo and Kramer's 2005 model. So that was the recent model that related to my study. Okay, so I can see here, I listed down the absence of important variables such as managerial belief and pressure intensity. Okay, I did a research on e-commerce at that time. Okay, I found variables, managerial belief and pressure intensity existed in the literature, but not in the area of e-commerce, but in the area of internet usage. So that is also considered as gap. Okay, gaps. There was a debatable issue on gaps, and some people said, gap, how can you do something from the one that finding something that you don't know? Okay, so actually gaps ni bukan something from daripada you tak tahu you nak cari gaps. No, gap is something that existed in the literature, but there are loopholes kat mana yang you boleh enhance. Okay, that is gaps. For example, prior study tested that variable as a independent variable, but you think that that variable is suitable to be tested as mediator or moderator. That is also gaps. Okay. Okay. And then when you discuss about the gaps, you also need to suggest what you are going to do in the study. Okay. So you have the column suggested improvements to the proposed model. Okay. So I have listed here, maybe later you can see, okay, some example. Okay, for example, gaps number 4, the measurement of business performance. When I did this study, okay, I can classify my literature from 2 perspectives. A literature from the authors from IT-based background. They are doing that e-commerce research and performance. Tapi the measurement of performance tu not very comprehensive. But they have good elements, for example, performance in terms of the technology punya view. But another group of literature basically comes from accounting and business background. Discuss about e-business and performance, but their measurement of performance ignore the technological aspect, but focus more on the traditional performance measurement, for example, the e-business scorecard. So that is also considered as gaps. So there's a gaps between researchers from IT-based background and from management and accounting background in the issue of measuring business performance. So what I suggested is that I blend the performance measurement from the IT people and the management and accounting people, okay, research. So I blend together and I propose e-commerce scorecard. Okay, that is more multi-dimensional. Okay, so that is how you highlight the gaps and propose improvements to your model. Okay, so this is an example, the one that I published in Q2. Okay, the proposed model. So this model, of course, it comes from the gaps, okay, and the literature. Okay, for example, if you look at this front-end functionalities and back-end integration, okay, so last time, okay, maybe the researcher at that time in the literature, they regress front-end and back-end directly to performance. So my argument is that what is front end? Front end is the website. Back end is bila, let's say, user use the website, make a purchase, it will go to the accounting system. That is back end lah yang user tak nampak. Okay, so my argument here is that the previous study in the literature regress front end and back end directly to performance. So my argument is that you cannot simply look at, oh, you have a good website, your performance will increase. No, it has to go through usage. Okay, so that's why my argument, there's a gap in terms of testing the hypothesis on these two variables, front-end functionalities and back-end integration. So prior studies by Zhu and Kramer, they regress directly to business performance. But in my research, I think we should regress towards e-commerce usage first, so that we know, okay, the level of website, okay, the complexity of the website, okay, how it influence usage, for example, and how usage influence performance. And I also include moderator variable, e-commerce experience. Okay, you invested in technology, you cannot expect you will get a return on investment in the first year, right? Okay, so I want to test that. So at least when I tested that, it is significant. It shows that for those who invested in technology, you need to wait for a few years in order to reach a return on investment. Okay, so if you can come up with this type of theoretical model, then it would be easy for you to get published in high impact public journals. Yeah? And also, you want to publish in high impact publication, but you keep using simple linear regression, multiple linear regression. Okay, so please try to find the latest statistical analysis. For example, in a quantitative study, for example, the use of structural equation modeling, okay, using MOS, PLS, for example. And also, this is very important, expected for high impact publications and also expected for Scopus Index Journal. You want to send to Scopus Index Journal, make sure your similarity index for plagiarism is the maximum of 50. Okay, and from this 15, okay, for each of the paper that you have that is similar, for example, you have a match overview here on the right pane. Okay, publications, the first one, 4%. Okay, the second one, 2%, meaning that from your paper tu, they match dengan one paper ada 4%, they match. So, for Scopus Index Journal, okay, we want this to be the maximum of 2. Okay, so please, when you want to send, make sure the total similarity index for plagiarism is 15 and below, and also for each matching, a maximum of 2% only. Okay. And also, you want to publish in high impact publications. Make sure your English, okay, English is a good English sentences, correct grammar and tenses. So some guidelines here, you can refer to this website, okay, Wordwise. You can see the guidelines given. Okay, for a paper, when you prepare a paper, you are preparing an abstract. When to use past tense, when to use present tense. Okay, you use past tense to talk about actual result. You use present tense to talk about general facts, the paper itself or analysis of findings. Okay, so for introduction, you use present tense to talk about general background information, but you use present perfect tense to talk about previous research. And also for research methods, you use past tense to talk about what you did. Okay, you use present tense to explain diagrams, figures, tables, and so on. Okay, similar with result. Okay, past tense, present tense. Past is to talk about actual result, and present tense is to explain diagrams. And discussions also, present tense. You use present tense to interpret and talk about significance of finding. but you use past tense to briefly summarize your findings. And for conclusion, you use past tense to refer to your completed research, okay? And you use present tense to talk about implications and suggest future research. Okay, many more detailed things you can get from this website. So please visit. And also, if you have research grant, you can buy or you can subscribe Grammarly, for example. Okay, check your articles before you send. Okay, you can use Grammarly. Okay, Grammarly will suggest corrections. Yeah, for example, this one. Okay, so instead of using the, okay, the Grammarly suggested instead of the acceptance and adoption. Okay, so Grammarly suggested therefore the acceptance and adoption. Okay, so the next one, okay, publication procedures. So once you have prepared, you have prepared your articles, you already checked, okay, already good English and so on. Okay, you already checked Grammarly. Now you want to submit. Okay, you want to submit your articles. You need to understand submitting articles, especially in index journal. It's not like you submit today, 2-3 days, okay, you will receive decision. Okay, I experienced that. Ada yang especially lah PhD students ya, dia nak kejar dia punya graduation for the viva and so on, nak submit thesis. Okay, dia submit malam tadi, besok pagi mana dia dapat I punya contact number I pun tak tahu. Okay, dia dah message tanya, boleh accept ke paper dia dah submit malam tadi. So please don't do this. Okay, so actually normally it will take about like this. When you submitted, it's in the system, we receive. Okay, we receive many papers. As I mentioned, sometimes I receive like 40 papers a month. Okay, so when we receive, I have to read, I have to go through to ensure that it has we will choose the high quality paper. Okay, so of course I need to go through, I need to look at the statistic and so on, then I will make decision. And normally the decision will be made in between 2 weeks to 1 month. Okay, so if we don't receive many papers, then of course maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, okay, we will give decision. Not give decision in terms of accepted. Okay, the decision that is a DAS decision. Normally it is conducted by the editor-in-chief lah, okay, or the technical editorial review board. Okay, so this is what we call as DAS review. Okay, the decision is whether to proceed with peer review or not. Peer review ialah bila kita hantar kepada reviewer. Okay, sebab kita tak naklah dapat paper yang tak ada quality, lepas tu kita bagi pada reviewer. Okay, and then reviewer pun nanti of course lah we can expect rejection from reviewer also. That is why we need to have a DAS review as a gatekeeper. Okay, so and it happened also when we rejected at DAS review. The author kan tanya, where's the review report? I want the review report so that I can enhance my paper. So author ni dia tak faham. DAS review, kalau reviewer, kalau the review board tu rajin, dia bagilah komen sikit, tapi normally dia reject aja, dia akan mention that okay, tak ada perlu diperbaiki, whatever, not reach the level or whatever lah. Okay, so that is DAS review. So let's say we think that the paper is good enough to proceed with peer review, then okay, we will send to peer review. So normally peer review will take about 2 months. So altogether, the process will take about 3 months. Okay, so 1 month for DAS review and 2 months for peer review. And then if we receive comments from the reviewer, we will inform the editor-in-chief normally, or the one who appointed lah, okay, will make decision, okay, whether to give major, minor or reject based on reviewer's comment. Why? Because sometimes reviewer 1 say reject. Okay, reviewer 2 say minor correction. So here again the function of editor-in-chief or our editors lah to look back whether we want to accept or reject. If we want to accept, is it going to be major or minor? So kita kena tengok juga. Reviewer pun kita kena tengok juga. Kita takut nanti yang bagi minor tu dia main accept je, dia malas nak baca, malas nak komen, for example. Okay, so kita dekat gatekeeper ni memang we have to be very careful. Even we receive peer review report, we still need to make sure the comments given tu reflects apa sebenarnya dalam paper. And kalau dia kata paper tu good, tak ada corrections pun, still I have to read again and evaluate, give the decision. Okay. Okay, so results tu sometimes depends lah. Kalau jurnal-jurnal berbayar, kadang-kadang dia laju Another thing, isu berbayar, dia kata hantar jurnal yang berbayar ni sebenarnya tak bagus, tak ada kualiti. No, you need to understand. Macam kita di UiTM yang handle jurnal ni adalah lecturer. Okay, kita lecturer sendiri yang handle jurnal. And memang kita tak dapat bayaran. Tetapi, for example like MAR and APMAJ, journal under ARI, when we are being indexed in ISI and Scopus, okay, so UiTM subscribe the Scholar One manuscript system. Okay, so meaning that using that Scholar One manuscript system tu dia lebih stable dan lebih memudahkan, sebab bila kita dah being indexed dekat Scopus ni, kita akan dapat banyak paper macam APMAJ tu lagilah banyak paper dia dapat so bila tak pakai sistem ataupun pakai like macam sebelum ni ada pakai satu template tu, selalu hang, selalu ada problem so of course lah, to make it easy, normally the university will subscribe, and subscribing to that system is not cheap. It costs around $50,000 US dollar. So kalau $50,000 US dollar setahun hanya untuk subscribe sistem sahaja. So of course lah kita akan charge. So sekarang macam MAR kita charge. Kalau corresponding author, orang UiTM, staff UiTM, okay, kita akan charge UiTM punya rate lah. Tapi kalau dia orang luar, kita akan charge $250 US dollar. Kalau dia UiTM, kita look pada, kita tak tengok pada main author, kita tengok corresponding author. So kalau corresponding author dia staff UiTM, kita charge $200 US dollar. Okay, tapi kalau dia staff luar, orang luar, kita charge $250 US dollar. And this money is actually to cover the cost that we incurred, because we incurred what? We incurred the Scholar One system, $50,000 US dollar. Okay, so 5 jurnal yang pakai Scholar One system ni dalam UiTM. 5 jurnal. So 5 jurnal ni, at least kurang-kurangnya satu jurnal kena contribute lah $10,000 US dollar kan. Okay, so sebab itulah kami kena charge And then also, we send to English editing also. Okay, so lepas you amended the paper, you have made corrections and so on. Okay, you already edited the paper, make corrections, submitted the revised version. Before we send for formatting, we will send to English editing. Dekat lecturer APB akan buat benda-benda ni, kita bayar dia. Okay, so kita bayar. We need to incur costs. Okay, at least one paper RM100 for English editing. Okay, and then also formatting. Formatting also, we are lecturers we don't have enough time nak buat format satu-satu. So to speed up, like macam Scopus Journal for example. Okay, when we are in Scopus, we have to meet deadline. For example, kalau kata April issue, by 1st April memang dah kena upload. Kalau tak nanti dia tak follow Scopus punya apa orang kata timeliness. So kalau you tak timeliness, you tak achieve, so the risk is that there might be a risk of being delisted. Okay, so these are the issues lah. That's why we charge. We charge is not because we want to make profit. actually it is just to cover the cost ya. Mungkinlah ada profit sikit-sikit kalau paper banyak, tapi kalau macam paper satu isu 10 je tak profitable pun actually sebenarnya. Okay. And then results ni depend pada jurnal juga. Okay. Accepted. Okay. So accepted or rejected. Okay. Whether your paper being accepted or rejected. Okay. There are many conditions. Okay. There are also conditions accepted with minor, accepted with major, or accepted in its current form. Maksudnya tak ada changes apa-apa. Paper tu memang dah bagus. Semua dah betul. Tak ada spelling mistake. Tak ada apa-apa mistake. Accepted in its current form. And sometimes you will be given 2 weeks to 3 months to make amendments. And then after you make amendments, okay, before publish, kita ada copyright agreement and also publish. Publish ni pula, we have to follow turn lah, maksudnya kita dah ada queue panjang. So paper you accepted. Lepas tu you keep arguing, keep asking, bila paper I nak publish, dah accepted lama dah. Yes. Per issue we publish 10 for example. Dalam Scopus, kita tak boleh terus-terus increase. Bulan ni 10, dapat Scopus terus publish 30. No. That one akan ada issue. Apa kita buat ialah, kita akan try to increase. April issue kita publish 10. Okay, and then August issue kita try to publish 12. Okay, and December issue kita cuba publish 14. Okay, nak reach, okay, our desired level is to reach 15 papers per issue. Okay, so kita cuba naik sikit-sikit. Okay, so kalau kadang-kadang paper you already being accepted. Okay, you keep complaining, paper I tak publish, I tak boleh masuk Prisma and so on. So nanti I tak boleh ambil kira. Tidak. Sebenarnya the paper tu kita akan bagi acceptance letter and so on. And even in the system also, dia ada waiting for publish tu dia bagi tempoh 1 tahun. Kalau sebelum ni lah dalam sistem Prisma. Okay. This is an example. My student's paper, my PhD student paper accepted in its current form. Maksudnya tak ada apa-apa changes. Okay, so actually my student prepared the paper from their proposal. Actually the first one the second one, paper Nur Farizan ni yang apa tu, supply side of corruption ni. Paper ni ialah paper concept paper je. Okay, so the student prepared the paper, submitted to me. And normally I will do amendments first before submission. Apa yang saya buat selalunya, saya akan revamp baliklah the write up. Of course lah student ni kadang-kadang dia main cut paste daripada thesis dia ataupun daripada proposal. So the function of me as corresponding author, okay, the student will be the main author and I will be the corresponding author. So my task is I will make sure that I totally baca balik, buat amendments, do corrections, and olah semula the paper to reach the desired quality. Let's say this journal, I want to send it to Journal of Financial Crime, is Q2. So of course lah, walaupun dia concept paper, I have to make sure dia memang a good quality paper, a good quality concept paper, because this journal accept concept paper. Okay, and then I will do English editing, formatting, and then I submitted. Okay, so that is one example, accepted in current form. So you nampak kat situ, dia punya decision. It is a pleasure to accept your manuscript entitled Preliminary Insight on Green Criminology in Malaysia in its current form. Okay, so both my students here, the first one, also my PhD students, I co-supervise the student with Prof. Haslinda, the Dean of Faculty of Accountancy. The second one, I supervise the student and together with Prof. Ros Hayani as co-supervisor. Okay, so the next one, rejection. So your paper, you receive the decision of the paper being rejected. Okay, so when we say rejected, there are certain conditions. Rejection by Technical Editorial Review Board or Editor-in-Chief. This is what we call as the desk rejection normally. Okay, And then we have rejection by editorial review board, the double-blind peer review by the reviewers. Okay, and sometimes your paper being rejected, and maybe the reviewer rejected your article, but the editor-in-chief thinks that your article is worth to be published, yeah? But maybe requires some, some amendments and so on. So they will give you the decision of rejected and resubmit. So what does it mean here? Why they put rejected? Because when we publish, kita ada accepted bila, okay, submission bila, submission date, accepted date and publish date. So kita tak nak lah bila kita ask major corrections, kadang-kadang memang yang kita rasa mungkin ambil masa yang lama untuk siap major corrections tersebut. Kita tak nak lah nanti dalam submission sampai publish tu ambil masa 2 tahun, tak cantik lah dalam jurnal kita. So that's a case where we rejected and we asked to resubmit. Okay, and there's also a rejection condition where they rejected but they transferred your article to another journal. Maybe they have a consortium, they have a group of journals under that publisher. So they have like an agreement. Okay, if this paper not suitable here, we will transfer to another journal. Okay, and if the paper, normally it depends on the quality of your paper lah. Okay, so there are 4 reasons for rejection here. Okay, let us look at one by one. Rejection by technical editorial review board or editor-in-chief. For example here, the reason of rejection is not identifying the purpose or the suitability of the journal. Okay, meaning that your article and the journal theme tak match. Okay, for example here, this is my master student paper. I send it to this journal. We are writing to you regarding your paper, usage of mobile banking estimate to improve ecosystem to South Asian Journal and Management. We regret to inform that our editorial team has carried out preliminary review, decided not to accept it for publication because it was not found to meet the criteria required. So criteria ni, there are many criteria. Okay, for example, maybe one is the theme. Okay, another criteria maybe they want at least 5 hypotheses, but you provided only 4. Okay, so that is the first rejection by the desk review. Okay, and sometimes when we read at desk review also, under the desk review, we also look at rejection by the technical editorial board because of the article does not fit as a journal articles. So as I mentioned, you prepare articles, you want to publish journal articles, but majority of your citation come from magazine, newspapers, conference proceeding, only few from academic journal. Okay, so you want to publish in academic journal, but look at your references. Okay, so you have to make sure that if you want to publish in journal, then make sure the majority of your references comes from journal article. Okay, so look at the example of comments given by the reviewer here. Since there aren't many sites in the main part of this paper, it is tough to decide where the paper would naturally fit. I would suggest sending this paper to perhaps a computer-related magazine, since a couple of articles were cited from this source. So meaning that the paper cited majority from magazine. Okay, so reviewer thinks that, the review board thinks that it does not fit for a journal article. Okay, the next one. Rejection by review board, the reviewers for the double-blind peer review. Normally, the reviewers, okay, when we send for peer review here meaning that kita send to double-blind peer review. Contohnya, kita ambil 2 orang reviewer and we have to make sure that nama you tak ada dalam artikel sebab we don't want to have bias. Takut dia kenal you, dia tak suka kat you, dia reject because of that. So that is why we call it as double-blind peer review. So what are the reasons for this rejection? Sometimes it is due to common mistakes such as not getting to the point, redundancy. Later I will discuss in details. using unfamiliar acronyms, abbreviations, technical language. Okay, ambiguous and also confusing words, monotonous sentence structure. Okay, inconsistency, fragments, incomplete sentences, run-on sentences, for example, result from two or more complete sentences being connected without any punctuations, missing or incorrect punctuations, bad spelling, misused words, and finally not reading it over before you send. Well, we receive by just looking, by just briefly read the articles, we can see the author tu just orang kata melepaskan batuk di tangga, dia buat sambil lewa sahaja. Okay, so not getting to the point, the first one, what is it all about? Okay, so these are some examples. When we said not getting to the point, let us look at these two examples by the reviewer. The reviewer said the theoretical development of the model still needs work and to be updated based on already established models. So meaning that, okay, maybe the literature review not recent enough, not enough literature review, not enough recent literature review. Okay, so the second one, unfortunately, the methodology of the paper is not well suited for an academic journal. So tak nampak macam research. So that one is also very important. So this is an example of not getting to the point. Example of comments. Okay, let's say this is a comments from one of the journal that I reviewed. Okay, it is a Scopus Q2. Okay, there's something I put on the top. For a PhD study, it is recommended to refer more articles from flagship journals. So similar lah, when you want to publish in high impact journal ataupun publish to prepare your PhD. You nak buat PhD, you tengok your references. Some students keep saying, I tak dapat lah model, it's quite hard lah for me to get. I don't know where to find, I don't know how to construct. Because of what? Look at the quality of your literature. Kalau majority of your quality of literature tu comes from non-index journal. Okay, jurnal-jurnal yang tidak di-index, jurnal-jurnal yang not even in my site, for example. Okay, so datang daripada surat khabar, datang daripada magazine. So macam mana you nak dapat something yang impactful? Dia konsep, dia sama macam konsep komputer kan. Okay, garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you put into the system, it will produce output. Whatever data you input in your research, it will produce output. It's just that the data that you input, is it a quality data or not? Okay, so if you read your literature, it comes from low quality articles, of course you will have a low quality literature review. A low quality literature review will result in low quality framework or research model. Okay, so be very careful with this. Okay, look here. When you send articles to high impact journals, for example, so of course novelty must be there. Okay, so one of the questions that they ask the reviewer to review is on the originality. So the question is, does the paper contain new and significant information adequate to justify publication? Okay, so you can see reviewer 1. After reading the introduction, I found that there is no specific problem or issue the paper sought to address, aside from the fact that none of the statement of facts stated in introduction were supported by references, okay, and also the number of issues raised was too broad to determine any viable broad research opportunity. On its face, it seems that the author have surveyed a specific cohort of students and so on. Okay, so meaning that the originality is not there. Reviewer 2, the paper is just a replication of prior studies. What is replication? Replication meaning that similar to prior study, dia buat apa yang orang dah buat. Mungkin orang tu buat dekat Thailand, dia buat kat Malaysia. Okay. So no significant contribution to new knowledge highlighted in the paper. Okay. And then reviewer 3, the paper does not really reflect the title, that is student attitude towards business ethics. Okay, so I can see here in terms of originality, all 3 reviewers agreed that in terms of originality, it is very low. Okay, redundancy. Okay, redundancy in your write-ups. sometimes when you prepare, let's say you are doing articles, you want to submit articles to a journal that related to corporate governance. Okay, so look at the comments given by the reviewers. The biggest negative impression is the article goes nowhere new. It is basically a review of old literature that may or may not be relevant to today's corporate governance. Redundancy. Okay, keep repeating. Okay, keep repeating what already being discussed. Repetition. I did not find the figure table particularly interesting or useful in corporate governance. As I read the manuscript, I was looking for something that I could apply to corporate governance in my own circumstances. So these are some of comments, example of comments. And then unfamiliar acronyms, you're right. Without explaining what is IS, you daripada awal from abstract until the conclusion, you just mention IS, SME. So what is it? SME, when we take SME, maybe in Malaysia kita kata small medium enterprise. In the US, maybe they have another terms, for example. So you should explain at the first time when you mention IS is information system, SME is small medium enterprises, for example. Okay, so please be merciful to readers and reviewers. Okay, and sometimes also lack of thorough explanation, okay, of the instruments is necessary to make sense of the result. And also of course when you prepare the paper, thorough explanation is very important. Whether it is on the methodology or on the whatever sections in the paper, okay, you have to explain it thoroughly. Okay, this one. Sometimes you use the word choice, word choice to having one or more possible meaning. For example, you can look at this cartoon. You want me to get you a taxi. Call me a taxi, please. So this lady is asking again back. You want me to get you a taxi or tell you you are a taxi? Okay. So sometimes the choice of words not very clear. Okay. Intended meaning is unclear or have several possible meanings. Okay. So, for example, this sentence, flying planes can be dangerous. So it could be two meanings. Flying a planes could be dangerous, or the planes that is flying is dangerous. Okay, and then example, if you have this, some example comments by reviewer. If I answered the questionnaire, I would have difficulty in figuring out how to reply because DSS is not a system but a family of systems. Maybe the author prepared, okay, prepared the paper and maybe referring DSS as a system, but actually the DSS is just a family of a system. Okay, and then monotonous or lacking in variety of sentence structure. You keep repeating the same words. The current study daripada abstract sampailah conclusion. Okay, keep repeating current study. Okay, so please, choice of words. That's why if you use a Grammarly, for example, they will try to try to give you suggestions on to change. Okay, inconsistency, consistency in terms of the phrases, kejap capital, kejap tak capital government, G huruf besar, G huruf kecil, dekat abstract G huruf besar, page 1 G huruf kecil, lepas tu G huruf besar, dia macam mix, and then hyphenated phrases also, decision making, either hyphen or not, okay, heading consistencies, numbers in sentence, ada number yang spell out, ada numbers tak spell out, ada percentage in symbol, ada percentage you spell PERCENTAGE, and then sometimes the bullet, ada bullet, okay, macam-macam jenis bullet, ada yang the list and bullet punctuations and so on that you use, you have to make it consistent. Ada yang page pertama bullet dia gambar bulat, ada page kedua bullet dia gambar kotak, page ketiga bullet dia gambar arrow, so consistency must be there. And then table, figure, Okay, graphic 1 being followed by another called image 1. Okay, so atas you tulis graphic 1, figure 1. Tiba-tiba the next one dah graphic. Dah tukar jadi grafik, tukar jadi image. So be consistent. Spelling. Okay, you need to also choose US UK spelling, for example. Okay, don't mix. Okay, punctuations in tables. Some entries in a column being followed by a full stop, but others having no punctuations at all. Capitalization in tables, tak sama, tak standardized. Table pun ada font 8, ada font 10. Okay, ada font 7. Okay, hyphenation or compound modifiers. Ini lebih pada English lah. Okay, entire being followed by an hyphen or not, for example. So you can go to this link, okay, intelligent editing, to get some information on this. And then also your write-ups consist of fragments. What is fragments? Fragments is actually incomplete sentences. Okay, usually fragments are pieces of sentences that have become disconnected from the main. For example, you have a sentence, because of the rain. Full stop. So what? Okay, that is incomplete. So because of the rain, okay, there are many accidents. It should be like that. You cannot just write, because the word because, when you say because, that must be something, the impact. And you also have run-on sentences, also known as few sentences. It occurs when two complete sentences are squashed together. Okay, you compress everything in one sentence. For example, I love to write papers. I would write one every day without any full stop. Okay, and then punctuations, capital letter, full stop, question mark, comma, also very important. When to use comma, for example, common mistakes that. Okay, and then again some other examples here. So kadang-kadang because of that, when you formulate your hypothesis, for example, it's also not clear. Given here example, the hypothesis, not clearly stated. There is a relationship between level of computerization user involvement and MIS performance. So the issue here is computerization user involvement. What do you mean here? Okay, and also in this hypothesis statement, the issue is you have two IVs in one hypothesis. Okay, so you want to test hypothesis, but you have two independent variable in hypothesis. Okay, so kalau satu dapat signifikan, satu tak signifikan, you nak cakap apa? You nak reject ke? Do not reject the hypothesis. Okay, for example, here you have two IVs, level of computerization and also user involvement. So actually that would be two different variables. Regress towards one DV. And then also in this one, you said there is a relationship. Okay, but if you ask statistician would prefer if you include the word there is a significant relationship. Okay, because you want to reject or do not reject the hypothesis, you need to check whether it is significant or not. When you say there is a relationship could exist at a very small level. Ada 0.00001 pun ada relationship. Consider as relationship.
Memanglah dia dari Perak, tapi dah lama saya tak cakap Perak. Okey, saya cuba
Okay.
Contact komen mana you?
Nanti teman-teman cakap Perak ni apa pasal? Teman awak ke Dennis?
Siapa yang tak mute?
Serta mohon mute-kan mic anda.
Kayunya memang terliur. Ada cuba kong.
Okay, so here I would prefer if you develop a hypothesis, you should put a significant relationship, because we want to know relationship could exist. What we want to know is whether it is significant or not. Okay. Bad spelling, misuse words, of course lah, sometimes you dengan bad spelling salah. Okay, grammatical errors and so on. So all this will give orang kata impression kepada reviewer. So be very careful. That's why please, kalau you tak ada budget to send for English editing, then you can use like we have, even we have Quillbot. Quillbot tu boleh paraphrase, boleh check your grammar. Okay, paraphrase. free je pun kalau keyboard tu, tapi you kena cut paste lah satu-satu. Kalau you use Grammarly, you boleh upload the whole article. Okay, you upload the whole article and then Grammarly boleh just go through dan terus buat correction kat situ. Tapi kalau you pakai Quillboard tu, dia macam you nak kena cut paste sikit lah, banyak kerja sikit. Tapi Quillboard you boleh dapat free je Grammarly pun boleh juga, tapi I think tak tara lah dia punya the things that they provided for the free version. And ini yang memang kadang-kadang not reading it over before you send it. Okay, you tak sabar nak send, you tak baca. So ada je banyak missing here and there. Okay, and when I finished reading the paper, I was left wondering what value would be added to the IS or IT literature. Certainly the author collected lots of data, but there just is no story in the paper yet. Okay. And then another reason for rejection. Just now I did mention about rejected and resubmit. Article rejected by reviewer, but editor-in-chief wants to publish the paper. So authors are required to amend according to comments by reviewer and resubmit. So this one of the paper by my my master students decision dia reject and resubmit. Resubmit tu maksudnya kadang-kadang dia nak the editor nampak paper tu ada potential, dia nak, tapi mungkin ada banyak errors and so on, dia minta you buat corrections dulu and resubmit. Okay, transfer article I discussed before this. Okay, reason for rejection yang transfer article ni contoh dia. Okay, so I send this to Journal of Cleaner Production. So dia kata, I regret to inform you that the manuscript is not appropriate for this journal readership, maybe in terms of the scope, the scope itself. So, however, I do think it could be considered by another journal, and I would like to suggest that you take advantage of the article transfer service that Journal of Cleaner Production is part of. So, this gives you the option to have your manuscript files and details transferred to another journal. Okay, this remove the need for you to resubmit and reformat. So, maksudnya dia transfer, you tak payah nak masuk semula, key in semula untuk submission. Okay. And then also, Elsevier also pleased to offer the following promotion to our authors for a limited time. If you choose to transfer, Elsevier journal yang dalam this group, we will waive the article publishing charge. Okay, so now you keep sending but rejected. Okay, so bila rejected tu, you frust lah kan. Never give up. Why? Because, if you are lucky, if you pass the peer review stage, maksudnya the article to reach the peer review, rejection comes together with valuable comments. So you need to rework your articles and send it to another high impact journal. Okay, for example, like when I did my PhD, I did my PhD together with my husband. I did on e-commerce, so my husband did on intranet. So we can share literatures and so on. There are many things that we can share and we can publish together also. Okay, so masa tu semangat kan. First time nak hantar sendirilah artikel ni, pergi hantar dekat MIS Quarterly. Masa tu MIS Quarterly tu rank number 1. So dapat dapat berapa belas pages 11 ke 13 pages comments Dah lah dia punya tukang komen tu pun memang the well known people lah. Okay, so based on that 11 pages comments tu, we rework on the article, we address all the comments, and then we submitted it to another journal, Industrial Management Data System, and dapat accepted, with just minor corrections. Okay, masa tu, itu pun MDS tu Q1 ke Q2. Okay, so rejection, if it comes together with comments, think positively, do the corrections, send it to another place. Okay, and then also you need to make yourself visible on the internet. ResearchGate, Google Site, SSR, NCV or whatever, we have social media or whatever, make it visible. Because why? Okay, sometimes ada juga case dia nak tengok siapa yang hantar ni, dia pergi check your age index and so on. Okay, and then sometimes masa I publish dulu I mula-mula belajar publish ni, I have co-authors from US, from Binchan. Masa tu dia punya each index dia 65, citation dia 15,300 so we learn a lot from him on publishing the articles. Okay, so this is an example of a peer review. Tadi kita dah discuss this one. Okay, so of course for Q2 ini contoh bila paper you being reviewed. So apakah soalan yang ditanya oleh jurnal tu minta reviewer comments The first question is originality. Does the paper contain new and significant information adequate to justify publication? That is question 1. Question 2, okay, you are the reviewer are required to discuss on the relationship to the literature. Does the paper demonstrate an adequate understanding of the relevant literature in the field and cite an appropriate range of literature sources? Is any significant work ignored? Okay, so that would be the second question that reviewer need to explain when reading your paper. Okay, and then the okay, ini komen-komen je lah, later maybe you can read lah that one Methodology, what do they want to know about methodology? Is the paper's argument built on an appropriate base of theory, concept, or other ideas? Has the research or equivalent intellectual work on which the paper is based been well designed? Okay, and then the research design itself, and then the methods employed appropriate. Okay, methods you appropriate or not? The instrument that you use to collect data, is it appropriate or not? Okay, and then the analysis that you use. Okay, your data is parametric data. Okay, ratio data, parametric data so kalau non-parametric kita ada nominal ordinal data. Kalau parametric data normally kita ada ratio data for example. So your data is parametric data, but you use non-parametric techniques for statistics. Okay, so that is not correct lah. Okay, so it happen also among PhD students bila kawan-kawan guna PLS-SEM, you pun nak pakai PLS-SEM, tapi kawan-kawan punya data non-parametric, data you parametric. So that's a question, why you use PLS-SEM? PLS is partially square, is for non-parametric data, but why your data is parametric data, you use non-parametric analysis? Okay, why don't you use the parametric analysis, for example, SEM and MOS? Okay, so these are some of the things that we will look into. Okay, and then results. Under results, the question here is, are results presented clearly and analyzed appropriately? Do the conclusion adequately tie together the other elements of the paper? Okay, so consistency must be there. It must tie together. It happen juga when kadang-kadang I receive paper like tajuknya benda lain, objektifnya benda lain, research questionnya benda lain. Okay, tapi kita tengok framework dah macam lain. Okay, itu I tak tahulah dia cut paste daripada berapa paper jadi satu paper. Okay, so please be very careful with this. And also number 5, implications for research, practice or society. Does the paper identify clearly any implications for research, practice or society? Okay, so does the paper bridge the gap between theory and practice? How can the research be used in practice? Okay, such as economic and commercial impact, in teaching to influence public policy, in research that contributing to the body of knowledge. What is the impact upon society, influencing public attitude, affecting quality of life? Are these implications consistent with the findings and conclusions of the paper? So you can see, although it looks very simple, implication for research, practice and society, but look at the components that they want to know. Okay, and then quality of communication. Does the paper clearly express its case, measured against the technical language of the field, and the expected knowledge of the journal's readership. Has attention been paid to the clarity of expressions and readability, such as sentence structure, jargon use, acronyms, and so on. This is more on the quality of communications. So sometimes by reading to whether the reader to clearly understand, it's easy for them to understand or not. Okay, let's say you are at novice level. Okay, you baru nak belajar publish lah contoh or you are targeting like maybe previously you just publish in non-index. Now you want to publish in index. You want to try ERA. You want to try Scopus and ISI. Okay, you don't know where to get help. Okay, Emerald also provide a service. We call it as a peer with expert. Okay, so if you go to peerwith.com, okay, you can search for services. Okay, it's not that they will prepare for you. No, this is different. This is more on coaching. Okay, let's say you want to prepare a paper, maybe you start in terms of statistical analysis. You want to find a coach for this. So normally, okay, because I'm part of it, I was invited by Emerald last time, long time ago, I think about 2016, good. Okay, to be one of their peer with expert. Okay, so these are the services provided by Emerald. Language editing, okay, manuscript writing support, journal guidance, translation services, manuscript review. Okay, maybe you give to them your manuscript, they will review and give their opinion on that. And also statistical and data analysis. Okay, so how to select, how to search, you can just go to the select an expert punya page. Okay, you kalau you know their name, then you can type lah. But if you don't know their name, you can just choose a subject or category. Maybe you want to find expert on quantitative analysis or qualitative analysis. You just search, and then they will list down the potential person that can help you. Okay, and for that particular person, okay, you can view their profile, because of course they will list a long list. So maybe you can view the profile, then you choose. Okay, for example, this is my profile in Emerald Peer with Expert. Okay, so normally we will give a brief biodata. Okay, in this profile. For example, here I put it as like, of course, I included my H index, Google Scholars, Scopus H index, and then also my PhD, my PhD qualifications was subscribed. So my PhD thesis actually was subscribed by Harvard University, Cambridge, Yale, Columbia, and Duke University. They put it in their library as a reference to their students. Okay, so they purchased my PhD thesis. So of course, all these things is actually something that can build our reputation lah. Okay, so and also maybe can put some area of interest. So how to be the Emerald Peer with? Dulu Emerald Peer with ni dia by invitation. But if now I can see, if you are interested, you can also give them your CV. They want to have a look at your CV, and they will investigate, look at your database for Google Scholars, Scopus, and so on. Tengok pada paper-paper yang you publish, then they will decide. Okay, so similar with macam reviewer, to be a reviewer, for example, kalau you publish banyak, you publish in high impact publication, for example, you publish dalam ASI, you publish dalam Scopus Q1, Q2, normally the publisher tu sendiri akan invite, for example, macam in the Sains, dia nanti aja jadi in the Sains reviewer. In the Sains ni dia, jenis dia bila jurnal bawah in the Sains ni, nak review paper, tak cukup reviewer, dia akan minta pada in the Sains untuk assign the reviewer. So in the Sains akan assign lah yang siapa yang dia dah lantik jadi in the Sains reviewer ni. Macam recently I received 2 papers from high impact journal to review. Okay, so and to be in that database, to be appointed as a reviewer, of course lah, macam in the Sains, they will look at your background, they will look at your H index, they will look at the paper that you publish. Okay, so kadang-kadang because maybe masa tu saya publish banyak in the Sains. So dia dapat tengok lah paper-paper I, and then dia invite to be their reviewer, in the Sains reviewer. Okay. Okay, and then I think that's all for my presentation. Okay, so we have now is 4:13, so I think I open for Q&A session.
Kepada para peserta yang ingin bertanyakan soalan terus kepada Dr. Intan Salwani, ataupun mungkin Dr. saya boleh ajukan soalan berdasarkan daripada pertanyaan yang dinyatakan menerusi ruangan chat.
Okay.
Alright, soalan saya ambil soalan yang paling bawah sekali, yang paling latest sekali. Dia bertanya, Dr. Intan, the language editing manuscript review by Emerald tu, sama ada ianya free ataupun berbayar?
Ianya berbayar. Dia macam ni ya. Dia Emerald Peerwith tu dia akan bila kata you katalah you berkenan lah, you nampak kan, contohnya lah you nampak I punya profile kat situ. You rasa I nak dapat lah Dr. Intan punya servis ya. Okay, you akan klik, you akan request daripada Emerald Peerwith tu. So Emerald Peerwith ni dia akan matchkan, dia akan temukan you dengan that reviewer lah, bukan reviewer lah, the person tu. Okay, the experts. Okay, and then they will have like macam suggested price. There will be a negotiation juga. Okay, macam I pernah lah dulu kan, ada dah few years back lah, orang nak minta review pasal nak minta tolong on preparing a paper. Okay, so dia akan dia akan bagi suggested things lah. Dia tengok juga you punya request macam mana. Maksudnya kalau you request you memang nak publish, nak paper you level quality high impact publication. Okay, so kita kena tengoklah juga quality paper you sekarang macam mana. Kalau quality paper you pun memang teruk, nampak macam banyak kerja nak kena buat kan. The price tu dia adalah level-level dia. Tapi macam yang tu adalah negotiation you dengan the peer with punya expert tu. Tapi macam we all the expert ni, dia dah bagi dah, okay, for one job dia bagi you dapat $50 contohnya. Okay, so dia adalah dia punya negotiation and so on dengan the prospect clients tu. Okay.
Alright. Okay, soalan seterusnya Doktor. Soalan yang antara yang terawal tadi, can paper that analyze secondary data, contoh seperti menggunakan statistic of industry performance, can be accepted in high impact journal?
Yes, of course. Because you have to understand dalam research, you pakai secondary data, dia sebenarnya research ni dia luas kan. Apa yang saya tunjuk contoh di sini ialah contoh saya punya data saya ialah primary data menggunakan instrument, my research instrument, most of it is questionnaire survey. Tapi macam my student tadi yang dapat rebuff Q1 tadi tu kan, jurnal yang Q1 tu, dia kualitatif ya, dia doing qualitative study. Okay, so dia buat analysis using in vivo and so on. And then yang student I yang dia punya concept paper dapat Q2 tu, my PhD student, yang itu dia menggunakan content analysis. Okay, so you nampak tak, sebenarnya bukan kata nak dapat Q1 high impact nak kena buat questionnaire survey. No, tidak. Setiap research tu kita ada disiplin masing-masing kan. Jadi sebab itulah jurnal tu, kalau you hantar pada jurnal tu, you kena tengok, kena baca dia punya manuscript guidelines dia. Contohnya nama jurnal pun research for qualitative study. Nama jurnal tu pun dah kualitatif. You hantar paper quantitative, mestilah rejected. Okay, so sebab tu bagi saya, kalau you ada intention to submit, you dah ada paper, you dah tahu tajuk paper you tu, your task is to find the journal that best match your paper. Maksudnya you think jurnal tu bukan setakat you baca kat website dia, you baca juga artikel yang telah diterbitkan di jurnal tersebut. Bila you baca kat situ, you cuba je lah tiru. Bukanlah tiru kata you cut and paste, you copycat. You tengok cara menulis dia macam mana, ayat-ayat yang digunakan untuk abstract macam mana. Okay, itu adalah kaedah yang terbaik lah. Okay, you need to read the requirements and also look at the papers that already being published in the journal. Okay, that would be the best orang kata strategy to get published. Okay.
Baik, Doktor. Okey, soalan yang seterusnya, Doktor. Okey, ni hi Doktor. Earlier you ada mention if the references contain sources from magazines, the paper ethically not suitable to be submitted in any journal. If any, how many % can be accepted? Sometimes maybe the research is quite new and sources from existing journal belum begitu banyak. Could you advise on this? Thank you, Doktor.
Okay. We cannot say that a magazine, dia tengok jugalah ada resources other than journal articles ya. Kalau katakanlah what I would suggest lah at least 70%. 70%. Kalau you want to submit as a journal article, 70% make sure it comes from journal articles. Yang lain tu you boleh masuk magazine, tak ada salah. Tapi tengoklah magazine jenis apa. Okay, kalau contohnya macam kita ada magazine yang professional punya magazine kan. Okay, that is also good actually. And then also country report walaupun dia bukan journal tapi it's a country report, a study by WHO ke UNICEF ke whatever kan, yang memang accepted country report worldwide punya ni. So that is okay, that one is okay. Yang kita tak nak ni magazine yang tak ada kualiti contohnya. Sama juga macam newspaper kalau you tengoklah kualiti newspaper kan, ada newspaper yang good quality, ada newspaper yang memang lebih kepada isu viral lah, benda-benda yang orang kata kurang ilmiah sikit. So you nak publish, okay, mestilah you nak high impact publication, mestilah you also need to start to develop your research to based on the literature yang high quality. Guna konsep garbage in garbage out lah. Okay, so katakanlah macam samalah konsep kan, you nak buat kuih rasa sedap, you pakai tepung yang mahal. Okay, kalau you pakai tepung murah yang memang nak kena tapis keluar macam-macam ada dalam tepung tu kan, so of course the quality is not there lah. So sama juga dengan publication, the concept is the same. Okay, so kenapa perlunya, okay, why is important to refer, to have a good references from high impact journal. Okay, one reason is that you boleh tengok tadi I tunjuk sampel macam mana I review the paper kan. Okay, the question dalam Q1, Q2 tu. You tengok the question yang dia tanya, yang reviewer kena explain. Tu satu. They are very detailed. Okay, kalau you compare dengan jurnal-jurnal biasa kadang-kadang jawapan yang perlu dia nak review senang je. Tik dah siap review. Okay, apa tu ada satu space. Any comments? Itu memang artikel jurnal yang non-index lah kadang-kadang macam tu, ataupun yang index pun ada tapi a very low level tapi kalau macam Q1, Q2 the form nak review tu pun very detailed. That is one. And then they appointed the reviewers. They not simply ambil je nama siapa hantar review tak. Okay, kalau Q1, Q2 ni dia akan tengok background reviewer. Okay, sebab tu dia akan dapatkan reviewer daripada in the Sains, daripada memang established reviewers. So established reviewers ni apa yang dikatakan established reviewers? Kalau kita tengok reviewers tu sendiri, mereka adalah orang yang mempunyai age index yang tinggi. Contohnya age index Scopus ya. Kalau boleh tu dia akan cari reviewer dengan age index Scopus lebih daripada 5 kalau social science. Kalau science tu lebih daripada 10 contohnya. Okay, so dari situ bila kita tengok age index tu, kita tengok juga adakah nama orang tu asyik nombor 4 aja kan. Ada juga yang orang kata bonceng gratis, betul tak? Artikel sampai 70, 80 tapi semua nama nombor 4. Tak ada satu pun nama corresponding author, tak ada nama main author. So memang kita tahulah mungkin kadang-kadang dia tu bos. Kadang-kadang bos tu tak minta pun tapi yang staff-staff kat bawah ni nak bodek bos, bos tak tahu apa-apa, letak nama bos last sekali kan. So kena tengok jugalah benda-benda tu. So normally all these high impact journals ni dia akan tengok background reviewers itu. Okay, dia nak lantik reviewer, dia tengok background, dia akan tengok publications, dia tengok maybe kadang-kadang dia request CV macam ada macam UM dia ada Journal of Accounting Perspective lepas tu dia ada sekali tu dia hantar kat saya, dia minta CV sebab saya pernah publish kat situ. Lepas tu dia minta CV. Lepas saya bagi CV, dia cakap, doktor kami appoint doktor masuk dalam kami punya editorial review board. So at any time bila dia nak ambil saya jadi reviewer, dia akan panggil. Okay, so that is how lah, sama juga macam Mar. Mar pun kita tak main ambil je reviewer, kita akan tengok juga, kita akan cari reviewer. Contohnya, when we want to assign reviewer, first we will look at the reviewer's background. Mesti kena dengan tema artikel tu. Maksudnya kalau artikel tu buat pasal apa, kita carilah dia buat corporate governance. Kita carilah orang corporate governance untuk review. Dan kalau katakanlah dia buat corporate governance juga, okay, lepas tu dia pakai kuantitatif tapi reviewer tu kualitatif. So kita cuba cari juga another reviewer yang background dia yang sama dengan method, ada quantitative ke qualitative. Okay, so that is how we assign reviewers. That is why managing a journal is not an easy task. Dia ambil masa, sebab contohnya kalau I terima 40 articles per month, and that 40 articles tu saya kena baca satu-satu, nak tengok the quality to make sure that it is worth to publish, okay, reach the standard. And then nak cari reviewer pun saya nak kena tengok paper ni on what, reviewer tu background dia apa. Kat sini lah kita akan search kat Google Scholar, kita tengok, okay, kita jumpa maybe dekat accountancy dekat UUM, okay, ada lecturer on corporate governance, okay. So kita tengok nama dia, lepas tu kita pergi search dekat Google Scholar, kita tengok, oh dia ada buat banyak paper dia apa, kualitatif ke kuantitatif. So from there kita boleh boleh agaklah dia punya expertise dia kena atau tidak bidang dia. Okay.
Baik, ada soalan terbaru Doktor daripada Puan Maimunah Johari. Salam Dr. Intan, untuk secondary data, jika kita submit paper pada tahun 2022, data kita perlu updated sekurang-kurangnya sehingga tahun bila?
Okay, dia macam ni ya, when you deal with secondary data, secondary data ni dia tengok juga you punya objective of study juga. Okay, dia kena relate dengan objective of study. Kalau kata I nak kata spesifik, oh you kena the recent last 2 years contohnya, tak boleh juga. Kalau tajuk you nak tengok recession, data tu tajuk you recession, of course you nak cari data masa recession, kan? So kalau data tu katakanlah you nak tengok secondary data masa pandemic, so of course lah data you yang relevant is 2020, 21, 22. Selagi pandemik adalah kan. So kita tak boleh nak kata berapa tahun you kena update the latest one. Tapi katakanlah it is general, so apa yang you boleh buat ialah the latest lah. You kena ada the latest. And data also, kadang-kadang you nak prepare pun, nak buat research ya. Ni kadang-kadang bila saya supervise student lah contohnya kan, nak buat PhD proposal. Bila tanya apa you punya prospek data you nak, oh saya nak buat sebab this is PhD. I want to come up with something that is impactful, novelty ada semua bagus yang apa orang kata up to date semualah. I nak ambil data daripada tahun 1940 lebih sampailah the recent one. So for me, if you ask that, it is too ambitious. Too ambitious sebab apa? 1940-an tu sebelum Merdeka. Sebelum Merdeka, setting government setting pun lain economic setting pun tak sama. So, kalau melainkan kalau you nak buat study you tu memang ada comparison between era before Merdeka, era selepas Merdeka, then okay. Okay, that is why kalau you nak buat research ni, orang kata don't be too ambitious tu satu. Lagi satu, it mestilah something that is reflect your objective. Okay, your data reflect your objective. So I cannot say that there's an exact answer for that 2 years back ke no. Tapi kalau if it is general, trying to find the latest, and for each things that you ambil, contohnya you kata you nak ambil daripada tahun 1940 sampailah tahun 2020. You have to justify why. Dalam research, dalam PhD, dalam research, the most important thing is justification. You kata you nak pakai secondary data. Kenapa secondary data? You kata you nak pilih industri tu. Kenapa industri tu? Macam I buat research dulu kan masa buat PhD. I kata I nak tengok e-commerce. Kenapa e-commerce? Bukan EDI, bukan internet, bukan ni. Kenapa e-commerce? Why? There must be a reason. Okay? So by justification, it shows that you are doing something that is thorough. Maksudnya paper-paper yang you buat kan macam research ke paper ke, Bila banyak justification, nampak you punya discussion tu tara. You buat sesuatu tu mesti ada underlying reasons dia. It's not that you just choose like, for my sample, I choose 200. So why 200? Justify. Based on what you said, 200 is adequate. Okay? So that would be my answer lah for that. Okay, any other question?
Another question, Doctor. I sent one paper to one journal in December 2021. The journal keeps telling me my paper is still under review. Is there any time limit to say yes or no? Or the journal can keep the paper even for 12 months or more without making any decision?
Okay, to answer this, there are many conditions based on my experience lah. There are many conditions. One condition is maybe the journal receive lots of articles. That is one. Okay, maybe dia dapat banyak artikel dan isu yang dia terbitkan sikit. Contohnya dia terbitkan 3 isu je setahun. Tapi dia dapat banyak artikel, especially normally lah kalau Q1, Q2 papers Okay, and kadang-kadang dia rasa artikel you tu kalau tak okay, dia dah buat desk rejection. Tapi kalau dia keep holding, okay, artikel tu maksudnya dia berminat tapi dia masih menunggu sebab dia kena queue lah panjang. Okay, that is another one scenario lah. Another scenario is that you kena tengok juga, katakanlah dalam setahun tu, you dah submit setahun. Okay, you pergi tengok dekat website dia. Dan setahun tu katakanlah dia sepatutnya keluarkan 3 isu. Dia ada keluarkan tak? Kalau tak, ataupun dia ada satu isu dah, tapi yang lagi 2 isu tak ada. Itu adalah tanda-tanda jurnal tu dah nak padam lah. Jurnal tu dah nak akan ditutup sebenarnya. So ada mungkin dia ada crisis in terms of managing the journal. Ataupun dia dalam proses perpindahan. Contohnya dia dalam proses mungkin dia jual jurnal tu kepada another party Contohnya macam kalau dekat universiti pun kita ada jurnal ni daripada UiTM Shah Alam dipindahkan kepada kampus Cawangan Johor untuk menguruskannya. Kadang-kadang dia ada isu. Okay, so you boleh tengok, itulah cara nak tengok ialah you go back to dia punya website tengok. Kalau kata setahun you waited for 1 year, okay, tapi dalam 1 year tu memang dia tak ada progress. Maksudnya dia keluar satu je, January issue. Okay, lepas tu tak ada isu dah. Ni dah December tak ada isu. Maksudnya better you withdraw. Okay. Ada juga kalau kata you waited for long queue dah setahun, tapi you tengok isu dia memang duk publish every month. Dia ada isu every month. Itu maknanya memang queue dia panjang. Contohnya saya pernah tunggu hampir 3 tahun untuk Q1 paper. Dan saya pernah tunggu 2 tahun setengah untuk being published in Q3 journal. Okay, so kadang-kadang you tengok je lah purpose you kan, macam kalau you want it to be like macam to be used for your PhD, contohnya you nak submit, you perlukan paper. Kalau lama you kena withdraw lah. Okay, so bergantung, you kena banyak jugalah kena tengok keadaan dia tu, senario dia.
Alright, Doctor. Last question. Bukan last. Second last question. What about affiliation? Let's say I'm PhD student in UNIZA and also lecturer in UiTM. Should I put both as affiliation in order to fulfill requirement for publication as lecturer UiTM and as PhD student?
Okay. In research, affiliation ni very important. You pergi belajar, contohnya you staff UiTM, you pergi belajar kat UNIZA. Dengan scholarship siapa? Scholarship UiTM. Okay, tapi memanglah you buat dekat UNIZA dengan supervisor pada UNIZA. Tapi dua-dua ada contribution, right? So affiliation, you masukkan dua-dua. Semua yang contribute to you. Okay, maksudnya in your study, you punya affiliation UiTM as a staff and UNIZA as a student. So just include both. That is acceptable lah.
Right. Alright, dibuka juga kepada para peserta yang ingin bertanyakan soalan lagi menerusi ruangan chat, ataupun kalau boleh selepas ini kita akan adakan sesi bergambar. Tuan-tuan puan-puan juga boleh lihat ada link telah disertakan untuk background bagi tujuan untuk bergambar nanti. So kalau boleh diminta, kalau jika berkesempatan untuk download gambar tersebut untuk sesi bergambar nantilah. Okey. Dibuka sekali lagi kepada para peserta jika ingin bertanyakan soalan kepada Dr. Intan Sabani. Selain daripada bertanyakan soalan untuk dapatkan slide, semua berminat mendapatkan slide daripada doktor. Kerana perkongsian ilmu hari ini memang sangat-sangat membantu kepada kami yang masih ingin terus berusaha untuk mendapatkan tempat untuk menghantar paper ke High Index Scopus dan juga WOS. Okey, masih lagi perlu slide. Ramai nak bertanyakan tentang slide.
Yeah, I would also welcome lah kalau siapa nak hantar pada MAR dan APMAJ. Tapi what I can say is that kalau you nak hantar pada MAR contohnya, kita sekarang memang kita tengok pada quality. Okay, bila kita dapat banyak paper, we will go for quality, and that quality tu memang one of the requirement daripada Scopus. Sebab you tahu tak, nak work to get in that sync tu dah satu hal bertahun-tahun kita work for it. Tetapi bila dah dapat nak menjaga title yang kita dapat tu pun satu cabaran yang besar. Okay, jadi kadang-kadang ada juga yang cuba pakai kabel lah. Oh, I dah talk to orang besar-besar lah melalui ini. Lepas tu kita tak layan semua benda-benda tu. Kalau you nak hantar paper, you hantar online. Okay, and we will evaluate whether the paper fulfill. Because kita sekarang ni, kita punya masalah ialah kita memang kena ikut Scopus punya requirement. Okay, in terms of quality, it should be there. Okay, in terms of the topic mesti relevant kepada scope jurnal tersebut. Okay, so kalau you berminat nak hantar kepada MAR, baca dia punya manuscript preparation and also all the guidelines yang ada tu, and prepare a good quality paper with a comprehensive analysis. Maksudnya framework yang komprehensif, bukanlah setakat 3 variable regress directly kepada 3 independent, 1 dependent. Ini Scopus tau, we are talking about Scopus. So kalau boleh kan, kita akan terima, kita ada high chances untuk terima kalau you can provide like quantitative research, you can provide a good framework. Okay, research you tu ada independent, dependent, mediator or moderator. At least lah satu mediator atau moderator. And then you pula pakai statistical analysis you pakai yang advanced, bukanlah regression analysis, simple linear regression, multiple regression. Okay, and then kita juga akan tengok kalau qualitative paper yang bukan setakat explain macam orang kata macam orang kata report je kan, tak, memang ada discuss the methodology in depth, macam mana you buat analysis of data, mesti betul-betul lah. Maksudnya you want to publish in Scopus, so your article should also be prepared to reach the quality expected for a Scopus index journal. So that would be my advice. Okay, memang MAR memang kita tengok kalau you punya quality paper memang insyaAllah high chances to be published. Okay, cumanya you kena ni lah, kita tak boleh macam publication pun dalam Scopus ni. Katakanlah sekarang kita publish the journal UITM kan, the publisher is UITM. Kita tak boleh lah dalam satu isu tu 10 paper semua daripada staff UITM, tak boleh. Okay, sebenarnya kalau ikut guideline Scopus 60% mestilah daripada luar negara. Luar negara tu apa yang ditakrifkan sebagai luar negara? Indonesia dia tak consider luar negara. Okay, Thailand dia tak consider luar negara. Okay, dia tak consider, dia consider luar negara tu ialah macam kalau Singapura, negara-negara maju dia consider. Tapi kalau negara-negara Asia ni dia kurang sikit lah. Macam Thailand, Vietnam ke, dia kurang sikit lah, dia kira macam satu rumpun. Okay, so kita kena peruntukkan 60%. Maksudnya kalau 10 paper untuk satu isu, 6 mestilah daripada luar negara dan 4 dalam negara. Dalam 4 tu pula, takkanlah 4 tu nak ambil semua UiTM. Mestilah kena ambil at least lah, kita bolehlah nego bagi 2 UiTM. Okay, 2 mesti lain. Tapi sekarang ni dari segi nak 60-40 tu kita belum boleh capai sebab jurnal kita ni baru kan, jadi orang belum kenal lagi. Okay, sebab itulah kita galakkan staff kita untuk site supaya orang kenal our journal. Okay, so sekarang ni kita masih lah lagi ambil, kita bagi lagi lah macam kalau 4 UiTM pun kalau boleh saya cuba cari, tak nak lah macam the same faculty. Okay, kita try juga cari varieties daripada kampus induk, kampus cawangan, kita nak lain lah sikit, and then kita juga open for RU daripada kalau paper-paper daripada RU yang good quality daripada universiti lain. So these are the things that nak tak nak memang kami kena follow. Sebab saya tahu, saya mungkin ada juga antara staff-staff UiTM Melaka yang submitted tumar, saya reject, ada juga pegang jurnal ni stres juga tau sebenarnya, stres dari segi macam itulah kadang-kadang orang tak boleh terima rejection. Okay, so bila dia paper kena reject tu, dia dah question. I dah tengok paper I bagus lagi daripada paper yang dah publish sebelum ni. So these are the things lah, itu dia punya judgement kan. So you kena faham, kita tak boleh nak simply publish. There are rules and regulation that we have to follow as an index journal. Okay.
Terima kasih Doktor. Ada satu soalan lagi Doktor. Nil mungkin nak bertanyakan tentang tips dari segi aspek sebagai seorang penulis dan juga sebagai seorang researcher. Dia tanya bagaimana Dr. Intan dapat membahagi masa antara membuat research dan menulis paper. Terima kasih katanya.
Okay, buat research, dia macam ni ya. Buat research ni, bila you buat research, dia kadang-kadang tema research you tu lah. Tema research, macam saya banyak, saya macam clusterkan saya punya research tu dan bidang apa. Jadi kesamaan tu ya, dari segi buat research tu, of course lah kita ada RA kan. Kita kena pandai manage lah kita punya RA. Dan you ada PhD student. Okay, how to simplify that Kalau dulu saya buat research, memang saya lah buat semua research. Lepas tu saya nak publish, dia jadi lambat. Okay, so sekarang saya ambil grant, research grant. Saya dah prepare the proposal, saya dapat grant. Lepas tu saya cari RA. Lepas tu saya akan offer RA. Okay, you nak tak sambung belajar? Buat master, buat PhD. Okay, so saya akan bagi. Ataupun saya ada kawan-kawan saya yang staff saya, staff yang ni lah, kawan sekerja, staff yang tak buat PhD lagi. Saya akan offer dia, you nak tak buat PhD dengan I? Okay, you buat tajuk ni. I dah ada grant, dah ada RA. So RA ni boleh helps you a lot. Okay, so kita buatlah strategize. So bila strategize, maksudnya you buat research tu, your research and your student research tu, dia ada macam orang kata laluannya sama, sampai kat satu junction dia split sikit kan. Okay, so that is the strategy. And then in terms of ni lah orang kata you kena percaya pada student. Okay, student macam mana saya buat contohnya macam student PhD saya yang pertama, nama Nabilah Student ni masa jumpa saya umur 23, start buat PhD umur 23. Masa tu saya tengok budak ni boleh ke buat PhD kan. Tapi you kena ingatlah budak-budak muda ni dia tak ada anak, dia tak ada dia free banyak kan masa. Tapi you kena guide dia sebab dia senang orang kata terpesong sikit lah dengan dugaan berkawan dengan kawan-kawan semua ni. You kena guide dia properly. Okay, apa saya buat masa tu? Saya offer dia jadi RA. Okay, so dia jadi RA saya. So bila dia jadi RA saya letakkan dia dalam bilik saya. Saya tak letak dia dekat bilik RA. Sebab kalau dia duduk dalam bilik RA, dia banyak bersembang, nanti dia wasting time. So saya letakkan dia duduk dalam bilik saya. So buat kerja dengan saya. Okay, so research dia dengan research saya. Saya pun ada grant tu tajuk dengan research dia lebih kurang sama. Okay, berbezalah sikit on the certain aspect. Dan sebab dia pun jadi GRA. So of course lah duit tu memang daripada duit grant. So daripada situ, bila dia duduk bersama kita dekat bilik office kan, okay, you dah kena start guide dia untuk publish paper tu daripada konsep paper tu. Bila dia masuk 3 bulan, dia dah ready the proposal, dia nak defend proposal, saya dah guide dia untuk buat paper. Okay, saya nak you come up with concept paper. Tapi you kena ajar lah. You tak boleh expect the student to tahu nak buat. You kena ajar. You kena guide the student. Okay, this is concept paper. Macam mana nak buat? Bagi contoh. Okay, lepas tu, bila dia berjaya publish concept paper, dia punya semangat tu tinggi tau. Dia akan proceed with the next paper. Lepas tu dia mula rajin. Bila dia dah tahu, you dah ajar dia dah tahu. Dan dia mula belajar, you send dia, duit grant ada, masuk conference, bagi dia pergi conference. I even send my student pergi conference di Manchester, pergi conference di Indonesia, pergi conference banyak tempat lah, di Filipina contohnya. Sebab kita boleh bayar dia punya paper registration and so on tu. Mungkin nak kena top up sikit-sikit lah dari segi accommodation ke. Kadang-kadang kita pun pergi sama, boleh je duduk sekali. Ataupun research partner kita pergi, boleh je sewa apartment duduk sekali kan. So that is how you strategize. And then bila dia dah mula buat paper, sampai satu tahap kan, dia dah sendiri buat tau. Dia dah sendiri, you cuma betulkan sikit-sikit saja. Okay, cuma constraint dia ialah bahasa. kalau pelajar you Englishnya bagus, insyaAllah laju je dia nak buat paper. Tapi kalau English dia teruk, this is where you need to interfere in terms of subscribe Grammarly, okay, Quillboard, so you kena bantu dari segi bentuk. Maksudnya duit research yang you ada tu, kan you dah ada budget untuk all this nak subscribe and so on. Ataupun kalau you tak subscribe, kalau English dia memang totally teruk, at least okay, kita boleh hire English editing. Okay, sebab kalau you nak buat semua as a supervisor, can you imagine lah macam student I berapa belas orang kan. So kalau satu minggu tu pun semua orang nak jumpa memang pening lah kan. Macam malam ni ada pun nak jumpa pukul 9:30 malam. Ada juga yang sampai pukul 2-3 pagi pun ada zaman-zaman COVID ni. Okay, so the best thing is that to reach the student to be able to come out and output yang high quality, you kena guide dia, that is one. And then, katakanlah saya dapat paper untuk di-review, okay, saya dapat paper daripada Q1, Q2, jurnal untuk di-review. Saya akan bagi satu kopi kepada student saya, student PhD lah normally, yang memang dah, kira dia dah publish, dah concept paper, literature paper, okay, dia dah publish. Saya akan bagi pada dia paper tersebut, saya minta dia review dan saya juga review. Lepas tu, we had a discussion. Okay, you tengok you review, apa komen you. Okay, I review, apa komen I. Kat situlah, itu adalah cara untuk mengajar dia. So, bila dia dah review Q1 paper, maksudnya memanglah itu review tipu-tipu je lah kan, saya bagi saya punya. Tapi sekurang-kurangnya dia dah tahu expectation. Kalau I want to publish in Q1, Q2, so these are the things that they are looking at. So bila dia dah ada pengalaman, tengok macam mana question yang ditanya untuk review tersebut, dan saya pula discuss dengan dia, saya compare apa yang dia punya review dengan saya punya review. Saya cerita balik, kenapa dia punya tak betul review dia, kenapa saya patutnya review macam ni. So dia dah dapat knowledge tu. So that's why at last they managed to get Q1, published in Q1. Okay, so that is how I ni lah. And then of course lah, kalau jurnal-jurnal berbayar tu, you kena support dari segi your research grant and even macam my current RA currently doing masters dia budak engineering tapi dia jadi RA saya. Memanglah susah juga saya nak twist dia punya style sebab orang engineering ni dia kalau buat paper pun pendek kan. Tapi ambil masa, tapi saya ajar dia. Sekarang dia pula saya cakap buatlah master, rugi je. So dia pun buat master kat business, buat dalam fintech. So saya pula ada grant fintech. Okay, so collection of data tu together. Okay, so that is how maksudnya you bukan nak kata bahagi masa. Kalau you kata masa you nak bagi nak buat semua benda memang tak sempat. Kan, teaching lagi kan, supervision lagi. Bayangkanlah kalau PhD supervision kan, kalau datang macam baru ni student saya daripada Disember, Januari, Februari, March, April. Ada tiap-tiap bulan ada orang viva PhD kan. So of course lah bila student viva PhD kita nak kena baca and so on, memang hectic lah jadual. Okay, tapi kalau you trust your student, you guide your student properly, insyaAllah they will be satu ialah dari segi kita as a lecturer, memang our task kalau katakanlah you dapat geran-geran FRGS contohnya, memang you punya task untuk develop, dia ada satu task dia panggil human development kan. Okay, so memang yang tu memang part of it. So memang apa yang you perlu buat lah macam tu. Okay, you sendiri yang develop the students. Okay, sekurang-kurangnya dia boleh jadi hampir-hampir macam you pun okay lah. Okay, so that would be my experience lah.
Baik, Doktor. Okay, makluman kepada para peserta, berikut kami ada sediakan link untuk anda download image gambar background untuk Bengkel pada hari ini. Jadi jika tidak keberatan, diminta untuk para peserta mendownload gambar tersebut dan setupnya sebagai background untuk Cisco Webex meetings kita pada hari ini, sebab selepas ini kita akan mengadakan sesi bergambar. Okey, memandangkan tiada lagi soalan daripada para peserta, mungkin kita akan sudahi program ni dengan lebih awal sikit lagi lah. Memandangkan sekarang ni pun dah masuk hampir ke pukul 5 dan mungkin ramai dah memikirkan juadah untuk berbuka puasa selepas ini. Okey, diminta kepada semua para peserta jika boleh untuk buka kamera masing-masing untuk kita adakan sesi bergambar. Pihak host akan mengambil gambar ke? ke saya sebagai MC yang akan ambil gambar macam mana?
Cik Fas boleh ambil gambar tak?
Saya punya kamera ada problem sikit. Dia ada masalah untuk capture screen grab tu, dia ada masalah sikit. Minta host boleh tolong ambilkan, Puan Encik Syahidan boleh tolong ambilkan? Boleh ke?
Okey, saya tolong ambilkan lah.
Baik.
Okey. Sekejap
Kena
okey.
counting.
Okey. 1, 2, 3. Okey, sekali lagi dia slow sikit lah. Tak semua gambar dia ada. Okey, sekejap Sekali. Okey. 1, 2, 3. Alright. Sekejap Macam mana nak pergi next ni? Sekejap kita pergi next. Okey, sekali lagi Okey, 1, 2, 3. Alright, sekejap. Saya ambil yang on video je yang tak on video boleh tak kau tak ambil?
Minta maaf lah, yang keluar image wajah kesayangan
Saja
hamba
kita
saja.
ambil Okey, ada satu lagi. Okey, sekejap
Baru open.
Okey, 1, 2, 3. Alright, sekali lagi. Sebab ada yang baru open video ni. Sekejap Okey. Okey, 1, 2, 3. Alright. Terima kasih.
Right, terima kasih Puan Ayu.
Okey.
Alhamdulillah, ribuan terima kasih kepada Dr. Intan Salwani di atas perkongsian ilmu berkenaan tentang penerbitan Jurnal Berindeks SCOPUSWoSERA kita pada hari ini. Diharapkan segala soalan, pertanyaan dan juga kriteria-kriteria yang telah dipersembahkan oleh Dr. Intan Salwani dapat menjawab dan membantu kita para ahli akademik untuk lebih bersemangat menghantar penulisan kita ke penerbitan berindeks tinggi inilah. Okey, sebelum kita tamatkan bengkel kita pada hari ini, kita akhiri dengan bacaan doa surah Wal-As. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Terima kasih sekali lagi di atas penyertaan para peserta dan jangan lupa untuk mengisi link kehadiran yang telah disediakan di ruangan chat dan ikuti panduan yang telah diberikan oleh Encik Syahidan di mana mungkin ada masalah browser bagi siapa yang tidak boleh mengisi kehadiran untuk buat sekali lagi mungkin boleh isi menerusi Firefox, Edge dan juga sebagainya. Okay, dan saya dengan ini mengucapkan terima kasih sekali lagi dan Alhamdulillah kita akhiri program kita petang ini dengan ucapan terima kasih kepada Dr. Intan Salwani dan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih dokter.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih dokter.
Terima kasih Dr. Intan. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.